Chapter 725. This Black Ice Fairy was most likely a core disciple of a major faction. Either there was serious internal strife in this faction, or it was destroyed by an external faction. As a core disciple, the Black Ice Fairy was definitely being hunted down. In that case, it made sense for her to hide in a place like this. Of course, if her identity was too important, she would definitely be hunted down. Although Monster Hunting Island was remote, there were still interactions with the outside world. After Uncle Zhong confirmed that he was a sword cultivator, the first thing he thought of was that he was a disciple of the Alioth sword sect. This Alioth sword sect was most likely the #1 sword cultivator sect in Qixingxi Xiuxian community. There was a weapon forging shop in the market called Alioth Weapon Workshop, which should have been opened by the Alioth sword sect. It was obvious that the matters on Monster Hunting Island were not a secret. If he could guess that the Black Ice Fairy's identity was not ordinary, those major factions would naturally be able to guess as well. It was only a matter of time before their enemies came knocking on their door. Wang Daoyuan also made up his mind to leave Monster Hunting Island as soon as he found out what he wanted to know. Uncle Zhong led Wang Daoyuan and Liang Feng into the Black Ice Fairy's cave abode. This cave abode was also very spacious and was divided into 2 parts. The front yard was like a living room, and there was a large long table for guests. Wang Daoyuan did not know what the backyard was like. The Black Ice Fairy was wearing an ice blue dress, and her figure was not bad. She was very attractive to young men who did not know much about the world. But to a wily old fox like Wang Daoyuan, it was just that. Her face was covered with a veil, so he could not see her appearance, but her almond-shaped eyes revealed some sadness. Her spirit power had already reached the peak of the golden core level, and she was an ice cultivator. Seeing that Wang Daoyuan kept staring at the Black Ice Fairy, Uncle Zhong coughed lightly. How should I address this newcomer, Daoyu? Wang Daoyuan's eyes still did not move away, and he said without hesitation, I am Zhou Ming. He had never used his real name when he was out traveling. Even when he said it casually, it was not his real name. The Black Ice Fairy's cold voice rang out, Zhou Daoyu, I wonder where your master came from and what you're good at. This was not to investigate Daoyu's secret, but to hunt demons in the future. Cooperation would be indispensable. Knowing your methods will make it easier for us to assign tasks. Wang Daoyuan did not mind. After all, he had many tricks up his sleeves. Any one of them could be used to impersonate a loose cultivator. Since he had already revealed that he was a sword cultivator, he might as well admit it directly. I have learned some sword cultivator techniques. I'm almost a second-rate Jin Dan. Uncle Zhong continued, since you're a sword cultivator, you must have some attainments in refining weapons. Wang Daoyuan nodded. I do know a thing or two. He could admit to refining equipment, but he couldn't admit to other things. This was especially true for alchemy. This inheritance had a lot to do with the types of spirit plants that could be found locally. The Sea of 7 Stars had less land and more sea. The main materials for alchemy were definitely demon cores, demon beast blood essence, and the like. Wang Daoyuan did not have these inheritances. Once he was asked to refine pills, he would definitely be exposed. Uncle Zhong smiled. That's not bad. In the future, if your artifacts are damaged, you can repair them in time. You don't have to buy new ones from those weapon workshops. I heard from Liang Feng that you have a type of spirit bee that can search for spiritual objects. Can you let us have a look? Wang Daoyuan took out more than 10 second-tier upper-grade soul-chasing bees from the space of the spirit pearl. These were already the lowest-grade soul-chasing bees in his possession. In the past few years, the area of the spirit field in the space of the spirit pearl had increased a lot. It had already reached more than 90 mu, and the flow of time had increased by 60 times. The space had expanded and there were more honey sources. Especially with more high-grade spirit plants, the ranks of the soul-chasing bees had also increased. The queen bee had already reached 3rd tier upper grade. There were also more than 500 ordinary soul-chasing bees that had reached 3rd tier lower grade. As for the remaining 2nd tier upper grade soul-chasing bees, there were already more than 50,000 of them. Uncle Zhong looked at the soul-chasing bees and nodded in satisfaction. Their speed can reach 5,000 to 6,000 miles in 2 hours. If Daoyu were to live on a large island with lush vegetation, he would be able to build a foundation just by raising bees. Wang Daoyuan took the opportunity to fish for more information. I was born in a remote place and have never been to a large island. I wonder what the situation is like on this large island. If possible, I can live on this large island in the future. Uncle Zhong was also a shrewd person. He immediately realized that he had misspoken. However, his face did not reveal the slightest bit of panic. When I was young, I traveled to the Green Leaf Island under the jurisdiction of the Divine Pill sect. The Green Leaf Island has a circumference of 10,000 miles, and there are hundreds of thousands of cultivators living there. There are even more mortals. The spirit fields on the island extend as far as the eye can see. If Dao Yu could go to that large island to build a family, he would be able to make a fortune with just these spirit bees. Wang Daoyuan also knew that it would be difficult to fish out too much information. It was already not bad to be able to fish out the name of a large sect and the situation of an island. If there is a chance in the future, we can travel to the large island. The Black Ice Fairy said, since Daoyu's spirit bees are not weak, it shouldn't be a problem for them to find traces of demonic beasts. Let's prepare to hunt demonic beasts. Uncle Zhong nodded. There are too many demonic beast hunters on this island. It would be difficult to snatch high-tier demonic beasts. Now that we have Dao Yu as an expert, let's go to the Black Shark Reef in the south of the demonic beast hunting island. There are often rank 4 upper-grade sharks there. Furthermore, there are also jade fin sharks. The fish skin and shark fin can be sold for a good price. Wang Daoyuan was new here, so he naturally did not have any objections. The Black Shark Reef was the most dangerous place near the demonic beast hunting island. There were rank 4 upper-grade demonic beasts in the market. Sometimes, one could even see demonic beasts that were extremely close to rank 5. Once these guys appeared, there would be a demonic beast hunting team that would be wiped out. Demonic beast hunting teams that were not strong enough would not dare to join in the fun. However, with Wang Daoyuan's strength, these demonic beasts would be sent to their deaths. This demonic beast hunting team was not weak. With the Black Ice Fairy and Uncle Zhong, it would not be a problem for them to fight against demonic beasts that were close to rank 5. Seeing that no one had any objections, the Black Ice Fairy said, then let's get ready. We will set off in a month. Wang Daoyuan did not have much to prepare. He just opened up a cave abode on this small mountain. Other than that, he went to the Kaiyang restaurant every day to gather information. Every single one of these loose cultivators had a belly full of complaints. Once they drank, they would vomit. Wang Daoyuan also obtained a lot of information from them. He had some understanding of the major forces in the Sea of Seven Stars. Right now, the biggest force in the Qixing Xixuoxing community was the Seven Stars Alliance. The few forces that overthrew the Imperial Regency back then were the higher-ups of the Seven Stars Alliance. There were also many clans and small sects in the Seven Stars Alliance. About 80% of the forces in the Qixing Xixuoxing community were in the Seven Stars Alliance. The Kaiyang sect, the Divine Pill sect, and the Alioth Sword sect were all members of the Seven Stars Alliance. Among them, the Alioth Sword sect was a higher-up of the Seven Stars Alliance. They had contributed greatly to the destruction of the Imperial Regency back then. Other than the Seven Stars Alliance, the biggest force was the Blood Shark. After all, the Imperial Regency was a big tree with deep roots. Although it was destroyed back then, it still had a lot of hidden forces. These people concealed their identities and joined the Blood Shark, specifically going against the Seven Stars Alliance. Although the Blood Shark's strength was far from the Seven Stars Alliance's, it was still the old foundation left behind by the Imperial Regency. It controlled most of the secret realms in the Sea of Seven Stars. Many of the smaller forces that joined the Seven Stars Alliance also had secret dealings with the Blood Shark. With the addition of the Imperial Regency's cultivators, the Blood Shark was no longer the pirate it used to be. It was now a major force. Both sides had been fighting for thousands of years with victories and losses. The Seven Stars Alliance controlled all the big islands on the surface. The small islands in the remote areas were too expensive to control, so they were often attacked by the Blood Shark. After many years of fighting, these small islands fell into the hands of the Blood Shark. The Demon Hunter Island was a little more unique. Many years ago, both sides fought over the Demon Hunter Island. In just 500 years, the entire island changed owners 50 to 60 times. No one could gain the upper hand. Sometimes, a wave of demon beasts would come, and all their efforts would go to waste. Both sides reached a tacit agreement. Neither side would control these remote islands where demon beasts ran rampant. They would only send some worthless disciples to do some business here. They could also earn a lot of spirit stones. Even if there was a beast tide and everyone died, it was not a big deal. Chapter 726. The two sides reached a balance. The Seven Stars Alliance was unable to destroy the Blood Shark, and the Blood Shark was unable to fight with the Seven Stars Alliance for the Big Island. This situation had been going on for more than 2,000 years. Currently, neither side had the intention to take down the other in one fell swoop. Even if there were conflicts, they were just small skirmishes. Wang Daoyuan liked this situation very much. If the two sides were idle and did something big, then the rogue cultivators would have no place to stay. They could only become scapegoats between the two forces. He could no longer appear as a rogue cultivator. He could only find a backer. Even if he was a disciple of a big force, it was better than being a scapegoat. However, if he joined some forces he would lose his basic freedom, and it would be easy to expose his secrets. Both sides maintained a basic peace, so he did not need to find a backer. A month passed very quickly. Wang Daoyuan was in his newly opened cave abode, modifying sword cultivation dharma spells. He was just mingling with this demon hunter team to gather information. There was no need to expose his strength. The sword cultivation spells he used before, the sword shadow holy light technique and the demon slaying sword, were too powerful. Moreover, both of them were related to ancient spells. There might be people here who could recognize them. The power of the 10,000 sword art was too weak. It was a bit difficult to deal with cultivators of the same level. It was not enough to deal with those thick-skinned demon beasts. The power of the sky-sealing sword prison was not bad, but once it was used, the demon beasts would become dumpling fillings. He had already mastered the sword aura transformation technique. It was not difficult to create his own sword cultivation spells. Wang Daoyuan combined the sword shadow holy light technique and the sky-sealing sword prison to create a spell that could release 36 sword shadows at the same time. This way, when he used the sky-sealing sword prison, its power would be greatly increased. He had been studying this spell for a long time. When he was drifting on the sea, he studied it for a period of time. Now there was a prototype. The 36 sword shadows could be used to defend, attack, and also to use the sky-sealing sword prison. The power of a single sword shadow was not even 10% of the full power of the white tiger blade. It was still far inferior to the sword shadow holy light technique. However, it was still easy to deal with cultivators of the same level. During this period of time he had been perfecting this technique. Uncle Zhong's voice came from outside the cave. "Daoyuzhou, it's time to go." Wang Daoyuan put away the things in the cave, got up and walked out. There were a total of 6 people in this demon hunting team, including him. Aside from the 3 people he already knew, there were 2 other late Aurus core stage cultivators, named Ding Ming and Jiang Yi. The combat strength of these 2 people was not very good. They mainly played a supporting role. Ding Ming was an array master, while Jiang Yi was an alchemist. They also had several powerful healing spells. At the same time, Jiang Yi was also a poison cultivator and had refined a lot of poisons to lure demonic beasts. Of course, there were quite a few poisons that could kill demonic beasts. It was just that the poisoned demonic beasts were not easy to sell. Hunting demonic beasts had to be done swiftly. Once the stalemate was reached, it would be troublesome whether it was attracting other demonic beasts or wandering cultivators. If he could set up a formation, it would naturally be much easier to kill the demonic beast. It would also be easier to kill them in one strike. These 2 people were not old, and there were no obvious signs of aging on their bodies. They were at most 400 years old. As wandering cultivators, they could have such a cultivation level before 400 years old. These 2 people were quite talented. The division of labor in the team was quite clear. Liang Feng walked the path of body refinement, and his body was extremely strong. If they encountered demonic beasts that resisted more fiercely, he would be the meat shield and resist the demonic beasts head-on. Uncle Zhong and the Black Ice Fairy were stronger, so they were the main attackers. In the past, there was a cultivator who was good at escaping and hiding. His main task was to search for traces of demonic beasts. Not long ago he was killed by demonic beasts and Wang Daoyuan took his place. Wang Daoyuan, Ding Ming and Jiang Yi got to know each other. Uncle Zhong took out a Tier 3 flying boat. "Get on the boat. The Black Shark Reef is more than 10,000 miles away from here. It will consume too much spiritual power to fly there directly." This flying boat was more than 50 feet long, and it was still very spacious for 6 people. Wang Daoyuan was not familiar with the others, so he did not say anything along the way. The flying boat was not slow. It traveled about 6,000 miles in 2 hours. Soon they arrived at the Black Shark Reef. This was a coral island. The reef was not small, with a diameter of more than 1,000 miles. The part that was exposed to the sea was not big. Moreover, it was in pieces and did not form a whole. There were naturally many low-level fish in places with coral reefs. These fish attracted a large number of demonic beasts to come and look for food. For demonic beasts, devouring spiritual objects was still an important part of cultivation. Wang Daoyuan scanned the surroundings with his divine sense and found many Tier 1 and Tier 2 spiritual fish. There were no other human cultivators on the Black Shark Reef. The flying boat landed on the largest reef. This reef was more than 2 miles in diameter, and there were some low-level plants growing on it. It could also be considered an island. Uncle Zhong said, "Daoyuzhou, you will investigate where there are traces of demonic beasts." Wang Daoyuan did not say anything. He released more than 300 Tier 2 superior-grade soul-chasing bees and spread out to look for traces of demonic beasts. More than 2 hours later, most of the soul-chasing bees returned. Those that did not return should not be able to come back. The soul-chasing bees that returned had scouted the situation within 2,000 miles. Wang Daoyuan planted 10 acres of demonic soul grass in the space of the spiritual pearl to help spirit beasts and soul-chasing bees gain intelligence. These soul-chasing bees often drank the nectar of the demonic soul grass, so their intelligence had improved slightly. Now they could communicate with Wang Daoyuan more clearly. He said to everyone, 2,000 miles east of us, there are more than a dozen silver-gray sharks that are besieging a school of fish. More than 1,000 miles northwest of us, there are 5 cetacean demonic beasts with long whiskers that are searching for prey. More than 500 miles west of us, there are 2 black sharks that are chasing after several demonic beasts that look like seals. They have entered the reef area. The soul-chasing bees' ranks are too low. They don't dare to get too close so they can't detect the demonic beasts' ranks. A satisfied smile appeared on Uncle Zhong's face. Daoyu's spiritual bees are indeed powerful. They can detect so carefully. It's enough to know their general appearance and species. We often hunt demonic beasts in this area. As long as we know the general appearance of the demonic beasts, we can guess what kind of demonic beasts they are. Their ranks are not a problem. The one to the east should be a silver-scaled shark, the one to the northwest should be a baleen whale, and the one to the west should be a jadefill shark. Only a few of these jadefill sharks can grow to the 5th rank. Most of them stay at the upper grade of the 4th rank. Their skin is extremely tough and is an excellent material for making soft armor. Their fins are also one of the top delicacies in the Sea of 7 Stars. Their teeth are also excellent materials for making tools. With our strength we can still take down 2 jadefill sharks. Ding Ming, you start setting up the formation. Jiang Yi, I'll leave the job of luring the jadefill sharks to you. The Black Ice Fairy also said, if this jadefill shark is an adult, its strength should be equivalent to a second-rate gold core. I'll have to trouble Daoyu and Liang Feng to hold off one of them. Uncle Zhong and I will kill the other one as soon as possible. If time permits, we'll take down both of them. If time permits, we'll quit while we're ahead. Wang Daoyuan naturally had no objections. He could even deal with a 5th-ranked jadefill shark for a while. Jiang Yi took out a jade gourd and poured out a drop of dark red liquid into the seawater west of the reef. This liquid exuded a strong smell of blood. It was extremely attractive to demonic beasts like sharks that were extremely sensitive to the smell of blood. Ding Ming also took out a formation plate and set up a formation in the nearby coral reef. Wang Daoyuan released the soul-chasing bees to continue probing the demonic beasts' movements. After more than 100 breaths of time, the 2 jadefill sharks in the west quickly swam towards them. Ding Ming's movements were extremely fast. In less than 200 breaths of time, he had finished setting up all the formation plates and loaded them with upper-grade spirit stones. Everyone hid in the vegetation, waiting for the jadefill sharks to enter the formation. Chapter 727. These 2 jade fin sharks were both of the upper grade of the 4th rank, and their fighting strength was not inferior to that of a second-rate golden core. Moreover, they were in the sea, so their advantage was even greater. Even Uncle Zhong's wrinkled face showed a dignified expression. Soon, the 2 jade fin sharks rushed into the ambush area of the formation. Ding Ming immediately activated the formation, and the area within 15 kilometers of the island was instantly shrouded in a layer of blood-colored mist. The 2 jade fin sharks showed an intoxicated expression, as if they liked the blood-colored mist very much. The Black Ice Fairy made a complicated hand seal with her hands. She was extremely fast, and in less than 3 breaths of time, an ice-blue phantom seal appeared in her hands. This big seal emitted a terrifying cold air, and even with Wang Daoyuan's strength, he felt a little apprehensive. He was not confident that he could take this big seal with his physical body alone. The 2 jade fin sharks still had a trace of rationality, and when they felt the cold air from the big seal, they immediately reacted and fled to the west. The Black Ice Fairy smashed the big seal into the water, and half a breath after the big seal entered the water, the sea within 50 kilometers was frozen into ice, and the 2 jade fin sharks were also frozen. Uncle Zhong took out a silver long sword and slashed at one of the jade fin sharks, wanting to kill it with one blow. However, it was not so easy to control a 4th-rank upper-grade demonic beast. The 2 jade fin sharks' water attribute spiritual energy burst out, shattering the ice on the sea. They also used the seawater to condense 2 water pillars as thick as buckets and attacked Uncle Zhong. Although Uncle Zhong was strong, he had no hope of winning against 2 jade fin sharks at the same time. Wang Daoyuan's right hand was pointing a sword, and his whole body was emitting a fierce sword aura. Then, 36 sword shadows appeared at the same time. These sword shadows were blurry, and only had a rough sword shape. It was impossible to see their specific appearance, and could not be compared with the 10 sword shadows of the Sword Shadow Divine Light technique. While performing the technique, he also used his divine sense to suppress the Beiyuan sword intent and the majestic sword intent, which was the simplest and most effective way to fuse sword intents. After the 36 sword shadows were formed, Wang Daoyuan waved his sword, and the sword shadows slashed at one of the water pillars. The sword shadow was extremely fast, and in the blink of an eye, it struck the water column. Under the attack of the sword shadows, the water column collapsed and turned into countless water droplets that fell to the sea, splashing water everywhere. The remaining water column was also cut apart by Uncle Zhong's sword. This Jade-Fill Shark's strength was really not weak. More than 10 of Wang Daoyuan's 36 sword shadows were shattered. However, this spell was derived from the Sword Shadow Divine Light spell. No matter how many sword shadows were lost, as long as one had spiritual energy, they could be replenished immediately. Wang Daoyuan completed the sword shadows and attacked a jade-fin shark. At this time, the Black Ice Fairy had also recovered and summoned a transparent long sword. The sword exuded a biting cold aura. It should have been refined from profound ice jade essence. A burst of cold air flashed past, and dozens of 3-inch long ice crystals condensed around the ice sword. The Black Ice Fairy waved her jade-like hand, and dozens of ice crystals flew out and surrounded a jade-fill shark. Liang Feng also condensed a huge fist shadow and attacked Wang Daoyuan's opponent. The two jade-fill sharks were still a little dazed. They were intoxicated in the bloody mist when they were suddenly frozen. After the ice was broken, they were surrounded and attacked, and the opponents were not weak. The intelligence of a rank 4 monster was not low. Naturally, they knew how to seek advantages and avoid disadvantages. Sensing that they could not win, they wanted to turn around and leave. But when they reached the edge of the bloody mist, they seemed to have hit an invisible wall and were bounced back. The 4 of them naturally would not let them go so easily. They all attacked the Jade-Fill sharks. Wang Daoyuan still controlled the 36 sword shadows to attack the Jade-Fill sharks and fuse the sword intent at the same time. The Beiyuan sword intent had already taken shape. This time, after fusing with the majestic sword intent, the repelling force was not as strong as before. Every time Wang Daoyuan made a move, the degree of fusion of the sword intent increased by a bit. Seeing that they could not escape, the two Jade-Fill sharks would not sit still and wait for death. Under the stimulation of the bloody mist, madness appeared in their eyes. The black spiritual energy on their bodies surged and their bodies grew rapidly. Their bodies, which were originally only a few feet long, quickly expanded to dozens of feet long. Then they jumped up high in the sea, opened their bloody mouths and bit at Wang Daoyuan and the others. Wang Daoyuan was naturally not afraid of them. But Liang Feng and the others were scared out of their wits. Not only were the Black Ice Fairy and Uncle Zhong not afraid, but they were also delighted. The long sword in the Black Ice Fairy's hand emitted cold air, and the surrounding water attribute spirit energy gathered on the sword. Soon, a thick layer of ice armor condensed on the long sword, and it flew toward the mouth of a Jade-Fill shark. Seeing the ice sword flying over, the Jade-Fill shark quickly closed its mouth, wanting to use its strong body to take the sword head-on. However, the Black Ice Fairy's ice sword was not to be trifled with. It pierced one of the Jade-Fill shark's teeth. The strength of this shark tooth was comparable to a mid-grade rank 4 magic weapon, but it could not withstand a single blow from the ice sword. The ice sword cut through the tooth and entered the body of the Jade-Fill shark. Liang Feng looked nervous. He covered himself with a thick light shield of spiritual energy, trying to take on the other Jade-Fill shark head-on. Wang Daoyuan followed his example. 36 sword shadows flew into the mouth of the other Jade-Fill shark. The Jade-Fill shark quickly closed its mouth. Wang Daoyuan turned all the sword shadows into sword auras and drilled them in through the gaps of its teeth. The two Jade-Fill sharks fell into the water. After struggling for a while, they stopped moving. The fatal wounds of the two Jade-Fill sharks were inside their bodies, and they were basically intact. However, some wounds were left on the shark's skin during the fight, so the price was slightly reduced. However, there were not many wounds which would not affect the refining of soft armor. Uncle Zhong stored the two Jade-Fill sharks in his Cosmos ring. We'll divide the prey after we return to the demon hunting island. Jiang Yi's method of luring the Jade-Fill sharks works on all shark-type demon beasts. The group of silver scale sharks in the east must have smelled the scent too. They'll be here soon. Wang Daoyuan was somewhat surprised. The Cosmos ring was not small at all. The two level 4 high-quality jadefill sharks were both 50 to 60 meters long. One cosmos ring could hold them. On the surface of the sea more than 500 kilometers to the east, they could already see the silver scale sharks jumping out of the water. Everybody boarded a flying boat and flew to the demon hunting island. The silver scale shark's target was Jiang Yi's drop of poison, so they didn't chase after it. Everybody was relieved. The two jadefill sharks were worth a lot of spiritual stones. In particular, the bodies of the two jadefill sharks were perfectly preserved. Even their essence and blood hadn't been lost. More than 3,000 kilometers away from the Black Shark Reef, a level 4 flying boat more than 30 meters long greeted them. On the demon hunting island, demon hunters often went out to sea on flying boats to hunt demon beasts. If there was no grudge between them, they would just greet each other when they met. The Black Ice Fairy's demon hunter team had always been acting alone and had never had any conflicts with other demon hunter teams. They didn't have any enemies on the demon hunting island, and they had never been intercepted when they went out to sea. Therefore, nobody thought it was a big deal. Wang Daoyuan had always been on guard against itinerant cultivators and didn't let his guard down. The level 4 flying boat soon approached them. Suddenly, a blood-colored flag was hung on the boat. On it was embroidered a shark with its bloody mouth wide open. Everybody was shocked. This was the blood shark's flag. Uncle Zhong ordered Ding Ming, who was controlling the flying boat, to turn the boat around and fly to the west. A fierce-looking brawny man appeared on the bow of the opposite boat and shouted at the crowd, "Black Ice Fairy, don't be alarmed. We have no ill intentions. This time you led the team out to sea to hunt demon beasts, so you must have a bountiful harvest. We only want to buy your prey. We won't do you any harm." The blood shark was blocking the way at sea. Only a fool would believe that they had no ill intentions. The demon hunters were all itinerant cultivators for hundreds of years. Naturally, they wouldn't be deceived. They all took out their natal magic artifacts and were ready to attack at any time. Uncle Zhong stood at the bow and cupped his hands. "So it's Daoyu from the blood shark. We also came to the Black Shark Reef to try our luck. Unfortunately, there were too many demon beasts, so we didn't dare to attack. Now we're empty-handed. This old man has some spirit stones here. I hope that Daoyu will kindly accept them." The blood shark's flying boat continued to follow behind. It had no intention of letting them go. Chapter 728. The brawny man standing at the bow sneered. "Who cares about your spirit stones? Our leader has heard that the Black Ice Fairy is a beauty and has been thinking about her. Today we're patrolling the sea and happened to meet you. How about this, why don't you come with us? It will also relieve our leader's lovesickness. As long as our leader is satisfied, you can have whatever resources you want. Why do you have to work so hard for these cultivation resources?" Then a few more Golden Core State Peak Stage cultivators walked out of the cabin and started to make a fuss. Hearing this, Wang Daoyuan wanted to run. The minions below him were already at the peak of the Golden Core realm. The strength of their leader could only be higher. The Qixing Sea Xiuxing community had a level 6 spirit vein. Even a remote place like Monster Hunter Island had a level 5 low-grade spirit vein. Breaking through to Yuanying wasn't a problem. There was no such thing as half-step Yuanying. This meant that their leader was most likely a Yuanying cultivator. With Wang Daoyuan's power, he could deal with anyone below Yuanying. But if he met a Yuanying cultivator, he could only run for his life and he might not even be able to escape. Uncle Zhong quickly said, "Dao, you must be joking. Our young miss is focused on cultivation and has no interest in sex. Please forgive her, Dao." The brawny man from Shueisha said in disdain, "It's her business whether she has interest or not. Our leader can do whatever he wants. Isn't she the young miss of the Wen family on Xian Island in the northwest? We don't know if her father is alive or not. The forces he left behind all fled and were taken over by small sections. Xian Island has the endless ice sea and snow sea storms. We can't do anything to the Wen family. But this is Monster Hunter Island. Xian Island's reputation is worthless." Wang Daoyuan was familiar with the name Xian Island. Xian Island was the northernmost part of the Qixing Sea Xiuxin community. The sea there was frozen all year round. The ice extended to the extreme north where human cultivators couldn't explore. The mysterious ice island was in the endless ice sea. It was a huge volcanic island. Some ice elemental cultivators often went to cultivate near Mystic Ice Island. There were still many mortals living on the island. They relied on the heat of the volcano and the array formations to resist the cold, so they were able to survive. On Mystic Ice Island, the Wen family was the strongest force. Some of the forces on the island were not afraid of the Seven Stars Alliance and Blood Shark because of the boundless ice sea's protection. On top of that, Mystic Island was more than 2 million miles away from the Sea of Seven Stars. It was hard for them to interfere with the affairs of the Sea of Seven Stars. Therefore, the Seven Stars Alliance and Blood Shark didn't touch Mystic Island. Wang Daoyuan had previously guessed that the Black Ice Fairy was a core disciple of a major power, and his guess was not wrong. The Mystic Ice Island was indeed not weak. It was said that there were even soul formation cultivators there. No one knew what the exact situation was. According to Blood Shark's words, there was a serious internal strife in the One clan, and the Black Ice Fairy's faction was defeated. A phoenix without feathers was inferior to a chicken. The title of the eldest daughter of the One clan was not enough to intimidate these Blood Shark. They wanted to use force. No matter what, this conflict was unavoidable. Even if they could defeat this group of people, they would offend the Blood Shark. They would not be able to stay on Monster Hunter Island any longer. Moreover, there were many people on Blood Shark's flying boat. On the other hand, there were only 4 people with decent strength in the Monster Hunter team. However, Wang Daoyuan and Liang Feng were not related to the Black Ice Fairy at all. Why should they risk their lives for her? If they only relied on the Black Ice Fairy and Uncle Zhong, they had no chance of winning against the Blood Shark. Wang Daoyuan acted as if it had nothing to do with him. These peak stage Golden Core Blood Shark did not have the ability to stop him. Although the Black Ice Fairy's figure and appearance were indeed coveted, Wang Daoyuan was not a person who would give up his life. However, Wang Daoyuan was not someone who would forsake his life at the sight of women. There was no need for him to offend the Blood Shark pirate. Uncle Zhong sent him a voice transmission asking for help. Daoyuzhou, I know you are not an ordinary person. Previously you dealt with the Jade Fin Shark like it was a joke. Your true strength must be more than that. As long as you are willing to help, our young lady will definitely repay you generously. It is not impossible for her to repay you with her body. Wang Daoyuan closed his eyes and pretended not to hear. He really thought he was a hothead and wanted to trick him into risking his life with just a few words. He made it sound nice, but he did not take out any practical things. A hero saving a beauty was fine, but the conditions had to be discussed first. Seeing that he was indifferent, Uncle Zhong knew he was a wily old fox. Seeing that the honey trap did not work, he sent another voice transmission asking, Daoyuzhou, you have already reached the peak of the Golden Core stage at such a young age. The next step is to prepare to break through to Yuanying. However, the spiritual items that can assist in breaking through to Yuanying are not so easy to find. Although our young lady met with misfortune and was stranded on Demon Hunter Island, she is still a core disciple of the One clan. She knows a lot of information that loose cultivators have no way of knowing. Wang Daoyuan was somewhat tempted by the spiritual items that could assist in breaking through to Yuanying. He had come to the Qixing Si Xiuxing community for this purpose. After breaking through to Yuanying, he would bring some back to ensure that his wife and children could break through to Yuanying in the future. Compared to this, beauty was not worth mentioning. However, Uncle Zhong only mentioned a possibility. Wang Daoyuan would not agree so easily. Blood Shark is the second most powerful force in the Sea of Seven Stars. I am just a loose cultivator. If I offend them, it will be difficult for me to do anything. This meant that he agreed in principle, but he had to pay more. Uncle Zhong was also old and naturally understood. He said, as long as you are willing to help, our young lady will give you a 7 stars order. Wang Daoyuan had heard of the 7 stars order. The Myriad Corpse Spiritual Master's Sea Observation Record had also mentioned it. The Qixing Si Xiuxing community had a mystic realm left behind from ancient times called the 7 Stars Mystic Realm. There were many restrictions left behind by ancient cultivators in this mystic realm. It opened once every 500 years. The 7 Stars Order was the certificate to enter the mystic realm. Without it, one could not enter at all. This mystic realm was first discovered more than 60,000 years ago. Every time it opened, a large number of cultivators would enter and obtain a lot of good things. There were treasures left behind from ancient times, as well as cultivation technique inheritances and the like. After a long time, no matter how many good things there were, they would not be enough. In the past 10,000 years, very few people had obtained precious treasures. However, there were many level 6 spirit veins in the 7 Stars Mystic Realm. In the past, there were even level 7 spirit veins. The spirit chi was rich and it was in a closed state most of the time. Every time it opened, it would only be open for a month. Naturally, there were many kinds of spirit herbs inside. As long as one could enter and obtain some level 5 spirit herbs, it would not be a big problem. If one was lucky, one could even obtain some level 6 spirit herbs. Hearing that there was a 7 stars order to obtain, Wang Daoyuan was indeed tempted. I can help, but if you go back on your word, don't blame me for being ruthless. With just the two of you, you won't have a chance to escape from my hands." Hearing this, Uncle Zhong was surprised and happy. He was a little scared that such an expert had sneaked into the demon hunters. If he had evil intentions towards his young lady, he would not have been able to stop him. However, the stronger this person was, the greater the chance of dealing with the blood shark. He nodded and was about to send a voice transmission to promise when Wang Daoyuan disappeared into thin air in front of him. At this time, Wang Daoyuan put on the black demon robe and used the hidden demon art. Peak Golden Core cultivators did not have detection secret techniques, so they could not find him at all. A moment later, he appeared on the blood shark's flying ship. A sword shadow appeared on the necks of the 5 or 6 Peak Golden Core cultivators standing on the deck. Wang Daoyuan said in an old voice, "The young lady of the One clan, no matter how poor she is not someone who can be bullied by anyone. We just want a place to stay and do not want to be enemies with the blood shark. However, if you bully us too much, this old man does not mind teaching you a lesson." Hearing this, the people of the blood shark released their divine senses to investigate. They actually did not discover where their opponent was. This made them a little panicked. To be able to restrain several Peak Golden Core cultivators at the same time without being discovered, this was not something a Golden Core cultivator could do. The brawny man who shouted earlier said respectfully, "I didn't know Senior was here. This junior offended young lady when, please forgive me. This junior has some spiritual items, please take them as an apology to young lady one." Chapter 729. The higher-ups of Blood Shark were basically all descendants of the Imperial Regency. As for the lower-level cultivators, most of them were itinerant cultivators who were recruited. These itinerant cultivators were not easy to deal with. If he accepted their things, he would most likely be held accountable for it. Wang Daoyuan was too lazy to care about these trivial matters. He planned to run away as soon as he got the 7 stars token. There were too many troubles around a beauty, not to mention that Black Ice Fairy also had a great enemy in Mystic Island. Before Wang Daoyuan could speak, Uncle Zhong hurriedly cupped his hands and said, "Daoyu of Blood Shark, you don't have to be like this. My brother is a loner and doesn't like to talk to people. Please forgive us if we offend you." He took out a storage bag. "Here are some spirit stones as compensation for everyone. Please kindly accept them, Daoyu." Then he threw the storage bag to Blood Shark's flying ship. Wang Daoyuan and Uncle Zhong played the good cop and bad cop respectively. Under the carrot and the stick, the Blood Shark cultivators gave in. The brawny man did not dare to refuse. He took the storage bag and said with a smile, "I'm sorry about this. Senior, don't worry. We will definitely not trouble Miss Wen in the future." Wang Daoyuan flew away from Blood Shark's flying ship. The sword shadows on the cultivators' necks also disappeared. These Blood Shark cultivators were not in the mood to patrol anymore. They ran straight to the southeast. When they returned to the monster hunter's flying ship, everyone in the cabin let out a long sigh of relief. Wang Daoyuan sat in his previous seat in the cabin as if he had never disappeared. Liang Feng and the other two were quite nervous before and did not notice his whereabouts. Only Black Ice Fairy and Uncle Zhong looked at Wang Daoyuan differently. He suddenly disappeared and placed the sword shadows on the necks of several Peak Golden Core cultivators without them noticing. With this method, killing Golden Core cultivators was as easy as chopping vegetables. The flying boat did not encounter any more obstacles along the way and soon returned to Monster Hunter Island. Uncle Zhong sold the 2 jade fin sharks to the shops opened by those big forces and got 2,000 upper-grade spirit stones, which was equivalent to 20 million lower-grade spirit stones. The rogue cultivators on Demon Hunter Island were at least in the Golden Core realm. Middle-grade spirit stones were not very useful, and low-grade spirit stones were almost useless. Therefore, middle and high-grade spirit stones were used for transactions. Everyone gathered at the Black Ice Fairy's abode and distributed the spirit stones to everyone. Uncle Zhong said, "According to the rules of the past, those who scout for information, set up the formation, and lure the demonic beasts will each get half a share. The rest will go to those who hunt the demonic beasts." Ding Ming and Jiang Yi each got 100 high-grade spirit stones. Daoyu should also get 100 high-grade spirit stones. Liang Feng didn't take out as many high-grade spirit stones as he did. Of the 2 jade fin sharks, eldest Miss and I killed one together, Daoyu Zhou killed the other one alone. Of the remaining 1,600 high-grade spirit stones, fellow Daoist Zhou should take 800 of them. I wonder if anyone has any objections? This distribution was very reasonable. Even Uncle Zhong and the Black Ice Fairy were at a disadvantage. Naturally, the others had no objections. Liang Feng, Ding Ming, and Jiang Yi each took 100 high-grade spirit stones and left the abode happily. After the three of them left, Wang Daoyuan asked, "I helped you out. You should give me what you promised, right?" Uncle Zhong sighed and said, "It was all thanks to fellow Taoist Zhou's help that our young miss was able to escape. A mere 7 stars token was naturally not a problem. However, I have a presumptuous request. I hope Dao Yu Zhou can consider it." Wang Daoyuan shook his head. "Since it's a presumptuous request, don't mention it. I helped you, so it's only right that I get paid. I don't want to get involved in other things. Although Xuanwu Island is not very powerful, it's not something a rogue cultivator like me can afford to offend. Don't involve an outsider like me in your family's affairs." Uncle Zhong was a bit embarrassed. He took out a dark gold order. "Dao Yu Zhou, you're indeed a straightforward person. This is the 7 stars order. When the 7 stars secret realm opens, you can use this to enter it. At that time, the secret realm will take back the 7 stars order. The 7 stars token will only appear everywhere in the cultivation world 100 years before the next secret realm opens." Wang Daoyuan took the 7 stars order. It was as light as a feather in his hand. He didn't know what material it was made of. The inscriptions on it were also very complicated. Even with his skill in crafting, he couldn't tell what the inscriptions were for. He put away the 7 stars order and smiled. "Now we don't owe each other anything. I don't want to get involved in this mess anymore. We'll meet again someday. Goodbye." Then he was about to leave. Uncle Zhong quickly stopped him. "Dao Yu Zhou, don't worry. I still want to ask Dao Yu for a favor. The reward will definitely satisfy Dao Yu." Wang Daoyuan was unmoved and continued to walk out. Uncle Zhong quickly said, "The reward is a map of the 7 stars secret realm. Dao Yu Zhou, you're also an itinerant cultivator and don't have many inheritances. You don't know much about the secrets of the cultivation world. If you enter the 7 stars secret realm rashly, not only will you not gain much, but you may also encounter all kinds of dangers. If you have a map, you'll definitely gain a lot." Upon hearing this, Wang Daoyuan stopped in his tracks. Uncle Zhong's words were indeed reasonable. A secret realm with a level 6 spirit vein must have many dangers. Although he had the soul-chasing bees and Dahe to search for spiritual objects, he didn't know where the spiritual objects were. If he released the soul-chasing bees rashly, he would be delivering food to those demonic beasts. If he ran around in the secret realm like a headless fly, he could easily lose his life. Moreover, there were not only golden core cultivators who entered the 7 stars secret realm. There were also many Yuanian cultivators who went in to try their luck. With these people inside, Wang Daoyuan did not dare to run around. It was said that the 7 star secret realm was extremely vast and had a radius of tens of thousands of miles. It was only open for a month, so there was not enough time to search for spiritual items. If he had a map, at least the efficiency of searching for spiritual items would be higher. He stopped and asked, "I'm indeed tempted by this reward. Tell me what you need me to do." Uncle Zhong's face lit up. "When I escorted young mistress out of the Mystic Ice Island, I was heavily injured. In addition, I'm old and haven't been able to recover. I've been plagued by this old injury for more than 100 years. It won't be long before I'm exhausted. Although young mistress is not weak, she's too naive. If I die, young mistress will not be able to survive in the cultivation world. I see that Dao Yu has such a cultivation level at such a young age, and your strength far surpasses first-rate golden core cultivators. You're worthy of my young mistress, so I want to entrust my young mistress to you. My young mistress is extremely talented. It's not impossible for her to cultivate to the soul formation stage in the future. It's only a matter of time before she returns to the One clan. Young mistress is the only descendant of the old clan leader. Of course, she can take over the position of clan leader. The descendant of you and young mistress will be the future clan leader of the One clan. The One clan has a soul formation ancestor. Its status can be compared with great forces like the Jadeite Sword clan of the 7 Stars Alliance." Hearing Uncle Zhong's words, the Black Ice Fairy shyly lowered her head. To ordinary people, this condition was indeed very attractive. But to Wang Daoyuan it was not a big deal. With the spiritual pearl, his future in cultivation was not limited to the soul formation stage. He also had a family business in Beiyuan Xiuxian. So, there was no need for him to marry into the One clan. Wang Daoyuan shook his head and said, "With my abilities, it won't take me much effort to build a family business. I really have no intention of marrying into the One clan. The map of the 7 stars secret realm is indeed very important to me, but it's not to the extent that I'll sell myself." Then he turned around and walked out. Uncle Zhong sighed. Since Dao Yu has no intention of marrying into the One clan, I won't force you. As long as Dao Yu is willing to agree to one of my requests, I'm willing to give you all the information about the 7-star secret realm with both hands. Just say it. The 7-star secret realm will open in 10 years. My young mistress will enter the secret realm and use the spiritual items inside to break through the Yuanying stage. I hope that Dao Yu can protect my young mistress. After my young mistress breaks through the Yuanying stage, Dao Yu can leave. What he meant was that he was going to entrust his young mistress to Zhou Donghuang. Wang Daoyuan glanced at Uncle Zhong. When he was dealing with the jade fin sharks, he was still vigorous and vigorous. Could he not even survive for 10 years? Chapter 730. Golden core cultivators were over 800 years old and their bodies were already very old. Once they were injured, it would be very difficult to recover. Wang Daoyuan asked, "How old are you and what kind of injuries do you have?" "I have some healing methods and normal injuries can't stop me. If I can heal you, how about you give me the map?" Hearing this, Black Ice Fairy was overjoyed. "Dao Zhou, I'll help Uncle Zhong. As long as you can heal Uncle Zhong's injuries, you can have anything you want." Wang Daoyuan only wanted information and didn't dare to ask for anything else. Uncle Zhong answered, "I'm 890 years old. When I was escorting young Miss out, I was injured by an early-stage Yuanying cultivator. That person was an ice cultivator and large amounts of cold qi entered my body. I could only dive into the ice of the boundless ice sea to escape. That person thought young Miss and I were dead for sure and didn't chase after us. At that time, young Miss was only in the foundation establishment stage and couldn't resist the cold qi of the ice sea. I used all of my spirit power to protect young Miss and was invaded by the cold qi again. Although I've tried to control it these past few years, the cold qi has already corroded all of my organs. My body is like a lamp without oil. I'm afraid I won't be able to survive until the 7-star secret realm opens. The only reason I'm still alive is because of my true essence." Wang Daoyuan was silent for a long time. "I've treated death qi before, but I've never tried cold qi invading my body. What element is your cultivation method? If it's fire element, it'll be easy. If it's other elements, it'll be more troublesome." Hearing this, Black Ice Fairy and Uncle Zhong's faces lit up. "It seems I'm not destined to die yet. The most common cultivator on Mystic Ice Island is the ice element, followed by the fire element. I'm a fire element cultivator." Wang Daoyuan took out a strand of red sun primordial fire. "Take this strand of red sun primordial fire into your body and ignite your spirit power. This fire should be able to get rid of most of the cold qi. Even if it can't heal you completely, there should be hope for you to live a few more decades." The intense heat emitted by the scarlet yang primordial fire made the two of them see hope. Uncle Zhong directed this wisp of red yang real fire directly into his meridians, igniting the fire spiritual power in his meridians. Wang Daoyuan controlled the crimson sun primordial fire and spread it through his meridians to all of his organs. Through the red yang real fire, he could use his divine sense to observe the situation in Uncle Zhong's internal organs. There was a large amount of cold air in his internal organs. About half of the cold air was natural. It should have entered his body when he was crossing the ice sea. The other cold qi contained extremely strong power of law. It should have been injected into his body by the Yuanying cultivators. Under the burning of the scarlet yang primordial fire, the natural cold qi didn't last long and quickly dissipated. However, the cold qi of Yuanying cultivators contained the power of law and was much purer, making it very difficult to deal with. After all, the level of spiritual energy was higher. Using a lower level of spiritual energy to consume a higher level of spiritual energy could only rely on quantity. An hour later, the natural cold energy had been completely refined. Not even 1% of the Yuanying cultivators' cold energy had been consumed. Wang Daoyuan withdrew the rootless fire. "Let's stop here for now. There's too much cold qi. Uncle Zhong's body won't be able to take it all at once. Let's take it slowly." After saying that, he took out the Azure Dragon Pearl and used the Azure Dragon Reversal to heal Uncle Zhong. Soon, Uncle Zhong stood up and smiled. "Thank you, Daoyu. I feel much better now. It won't be a problem for me to live for at least 900 years. The Black Ice Fairy also stood up and bowed. "Thank you, Daoyu, for healing Uncle Zhong." Wang Daoyuan waved his hand and said, "You're welcome. Blood Shark already knows your identities. If some leader of Blood Shark comes to visit on a whim and wants to recruit you, it will be troublesome. Let's leave this place as soon as possible." Uncle Zhong nodded. "Daoyu is very thoughtful. We should leave this place. There's an island slightly bigger than Demon Hunter Island in the northwest. It's called Skyfire Island. The situation there is similar to Demon Hunter Island. It's also an ungoverned place. There are only a few cultivators who hunt demon beasts. The grade of the spirit vein there is higher, but it's also more dangerous. Demon beasts attack the island from time to time. We used to stay there before, but because there's a volcano on the island that spews lava from time to time, it's not good for Mrs. Cultivation. That's why we left. Having a volcano was extremely beneficial to Wang Daoyuan, as the lava contained an endless amount of spiritual energy. According to Uncle Zhong, the spirit vein there was at least mid-grade level 5. It was more suitable to comprehend the laws in such a spirit vein. The 7-star secret realm would open in 10 years. He could try to break through the Yuanying there. Now he needed to deepen his comprehension of the laws. Moreover, he had obtained many spiritual items and artifacts from the Purple Gold River branch in the Valley of Beasts. If they could be nourished with a large amount of level 5 spirit chi, they could recover quickly. These artifacts were not very powerful, but as long as they could recover to level 5, they would have some power of the laws. With the help of the power of the laws and the level 5 artifacts, he could exchange blows with the weaker Yuanying cultivators. It was impossible to defeat the Yuanying cultivators, but there was still hope for him to protect himself. With a large amount of spiritual power, the spirit vein in the spirit pearl space could also evolve. Then let's go to Heavenly Fire Island. It'll be easier to heal you if we go to a place with dense fire spirit chi. Since that's the case, let's set off as soon as possible. Uncle Zhong was quite decisive. After meditating for a while, he called Liang Feng and the others over. He said to the three of them, "We ran into Blood Shark. Although we've temporarily solved the problem, this group of people has no morals. It's inevitable that they'll come looking for revenge. Miss and I plan to leave this place. You guys should find your own way out." Then he took out 3 storage bags. "There are 100 high-grade spirit stones in here. I'll give them to you as your travel expenses." The 3 of them were stunned for a while. They took the storage bags and returned to their cave abodes to pack. They were not related to each other in the first place. They had gathered together to earn a living. Since they had lost their livelihood, they would part on good terms. After dismissing the 3 of them, Wang Daoyuan, Uncle Zhong, and the Black Ice Fairy boarded a level 3 flying boat and headed northwest. On the flying boat, Wang Daoyuan said, "Among the wandering cultivators, female golden core cultivators are too conspicuous. It's better for the Black Ice Fairy to dress up as a man." Although the Black Ice Fairy was also someone who couldn't see her toes when she lowered her head and her figure wasn't easy to disguise, she could dress up as a man and wear a loose robe. It wouldn't be a big problem if she didn't come into close contact with others. The 2 of them had no objections. Wang Daoyuan and Uncle Zhong left the cabin. An hour later, the Black Ice Fairy walked out of the cabin. At this moment, she had already changed into a loose black robe that could cover her figure. The veil on her face had also been removed, revealing a peerless face. Previously, just by looking at her eyebrows and face shape, one could tell that she was a beauty. Now that her entire face was exposed, it was even more breathtakingly beautiful. Ice attribute cultivators usually kept people at arm's length. Because of her background, the Black Ice Fairy still had a sad and sorrowful look on her face. At first glance, it made people feel pity for her. Wang Daoyuan and Zhou Wan had been together day and night, so he had a strong resistance to the appearance of a beauty. Therefore he didn't lose his mind. Seeing that his expression was normal, Uncle Zhong had a satisfied look on his face. He also looked at him as if he was looking at his son-in-law. Wang Daoyuan took out a jade slip. "The Black Ice Fairy's appearance is still too conspicuous. I have a secular disguise technique in my hands. I can change my appearance without attracting attention. Although I can't change my aura with your cultivation, no one below Yuanying can see through your disguises." Uncle Zhong took the jade slip. "Thank you, Daoyu." This kind of secular disguise technique was very simple for golden core cultivators. The 2 of them could use it after looking at it for a while. Uncle Zhong became a bit fiercer, while the Black Ice Fairy's appearance became a bit uglier. Although she was still too delicate and pretty, she wasn't very conspicuous anymore. After the flying boat flew on the sea for 2 days, the Heavenly Flame Island was already in sight. The volcano in the center of the island was also very conspicuous. A huge column of smoke was coming out of the volcano, covering the sky for several hundred kilometers. Chapter 731. Skyfire Island was roughly in the shape of a shuttle, with a length of more than 50 kilometers from north to south and a width of more than 20 kilometers from east to west. The volcano crater was in the middle of Skyfire Island. Uncle Zhong had stayed here before and was familiar with the place. He controlled the flying boat and landed in the south of the island. Demon beasts often attacked the island, so there were not many cultivators on the island. There were less than 100 people and outsiders rarely came here. There was a marketplace in the north of the island. There was not even a shop, far inferior to the marketplace on Demon Hunting Island. The flying boat landed on a small hill. There were 5 or 6 caves on the hill, but they were all empty. The death rate of cultivators on this island was extremely high, so there were many empty caves. Uncle Zhong smiled. Miss and I lived here more than 50 years ago. 9 out of 10 of the abodes here were empty. As long as there are no formations protecting them, you can choose whatever you want. Wang Daoyuan had never been very particular about cave residences. He casually picked a cave that was neither too big nor too small. After cleaning it up, he moved in. After Uncle Zhong rested for a few days, Wang Daoyuan healed him again. Because the natural cold qi in his body was removed and he was treated by the Azure Dragon Pearl, his body condition recovered. He could last much longer during the second treatment. About half of the cold qi left by the Yuanying cultivators was removed. He also used the Azure Dragon Pearl to treat his injuries. Then Wang Daoyuan left the cave and went to the volcano crater. The volcano was more than 3,000 meters tall, and thick smoke kept coming out of it. The fire attribute spiritual power had reached the mid-grade of the 5th level, which was excellent for comprehending laws. He came to the volcano crater and probed with his spiritual sense. Fortunately, the lava did not overflow to the crater. It was still more than 3,000 meters away from the crater. In the mountains above the lava lake, there were many small caves that had been excavated by people. It was very suitable for cultivators who practiced fire attribute cultivation techniques to cultivate in the crater. As for the thick smoke, it was covered with a formation and then used the formation to draw the fire attribute spiritual power in the lava to create a fire eye. Wang Daoyuan came to a small cave closest to the lava. The fire here was extremely strong, and ordinary peak stage golden core cultivators could not withstand it. However, the strength of his physical body was extremely high, comparable to that of ordinary demonic beasts of the same level. On top of that, he was a spiritual fire user himself, so his tolerance for fire was relatively high. Thus, he didn't feel much pressure staying close to the lava. Wang Daoyuan spent half a day to repair the fire eye array formation. Then he drew out the dust-returning flame and the scarlet sun true flame to burn the lava. Once again he extracted spiritual energy from the flames to comprehend the power of laws within. While he was at it, he also fused it with the spiritual power seed. The remaining spiritual power was all stored in the spiritual pearl. The cultivation of the spirit beasts in the space improved very quickly. The red-feathered crow was already close to the upper grade of the 4th level. Yun-Yi turned into a fat cat and soaked in the spring water beside the Gue water death flame all day long. She absorbed the purine energy and was about to reach the 3rd rank upper grade. Dahe had the devouring spell, so its cultivation improved the fastest. It was now at the middle grade of the 3rd stage and was about to catch up with Yun-Yi. In Beiyuan Xiuxian, in the spiritual energy tide of the hidden dragon river, even a little bit of low-grade 5th level spiritual energy would cause a fight. At that time he absorbed the 5th level spiritual energy for half a day, which brought great benefits to the growth of the spiritual pearl space. Now that he had endless spiritual energy of the 5th level, he strived to let the spiritual veins and spiritual fires in the spiritual pearl space reach the 5th level as soon as possible. In addition, he also took out 5 shields and a long sword. These 6 magic weapons were all obtained from the Purple Gold River branch back then. Now he had to restore them to the 5th level as soon as possible. The 5 shields were used to resist the heavenly tribulation of the nascent soul, and the long sword was used to deal with the Yuanying enemies he might encounter. With Wang Daoyuan's refining skills of the middle grade of the 4th level, he had no ability to modify this long sword. He could only make do with it. A year later, Wang Daoyuan was in Uncle Zhong's cave residence, constantly pouring fire attribute spiritual energy into his body to help dissolve the cold energy. Soon, the last trace of cold energy entrenched in his heart meridian was completely dissolved. He took out the Azure Dragon Pearl to heal Uncle Zhong. Then he said, "Uncle Zhong, all the cold energy in your body has been dissolved. However, this cold energy has stayed in your body for too long. Coupled with your old age, your foundation has been severely damaged. Without a treasure of the 5th level or above, there is no hope for you to advance in your life. Moreover, your lifespan has been reduced. It's already not bad if you can live to 960 or 970 years old." Uncle Zhong looked unconcerned. Originally, it was difficult to even live to 900 years old. Now I can live for another 60 years. I'm already satisfied to be able to see Miss break through the Yuanying. Then he took out a beast skin book. Thank you, Daoyu, for saving my life. This is what you need. I think Daoyu should have just left the mountain not long ago, so he doesn't know much about the Sea of Seven Stars. In this beast skin book, other than the situation of the Seven Stars secret realm, there is also a lot of information about the Qixing Si Xiuxian community. My previous promise is still valid. As long as Daoyu is willing to marry Miss, the heir of the One Clan will be the child of you in Mississippi. The One Clan is one of the top forces in the Sea of Seven Stars. It is not inferior to the Jadeite Sword sect. Wang Daoyuan took the beast skin book. Thank you, Daoyu. I've already done what I promised. I already have a wife and a child at home. I can only let Daoyu down. Goodbye. Then Wang Daoyuan turned and left the cave residence. Uncle Zhong only sighed and didn't say anything. When he reached the entrance of the cave residence, he saw a black figure running into the cave residence next door. He used his divine perception to check and found that it was the Black Ice Fairy. There were still some tears in her eyes. Wang Daoyuan still didn't give in and left the small mountain. He hid his figure and flew toward the volcanic crater. The Black Ice Fairy was a stunning beauty. Her appearance wasn't inferior to Zhou Wan's. However, Wang Daoyuan couldn't marry into her family, and the Black Ice Fairy couldn't be a concubine. He couldn't put on his clothes and leave after seducing her. It was destined to be fruitless. It was better to end it early. He returned to the volcanic crater and continued to comprehend the laws. This volcanic crater was too suitable for Wang Daoyuan to cultivate. The level 5 spirit power was endless, and there was no one to disturb him. Even if the demonic beasts attacked the island, most of the aquatic demonic beasts didn't like places with dense fire spirit chi. They wouldn't come here to disturb him. He didn't plan to wander around anymore. He cultivated here and waited for the Seven Stars secret realm to open. The beast skin book that Uncle Zhong gave him had very specific contents. In the Seven Stars secret realm, there were level 6 spirit veins and precious spirit items that appeared in these spirit veins. This was also the foundation of the major forces. These major forces had been passed down for tens of thousands of years and knew a lot of secrets. The contents of this book were slowly explored by the One Clan disciples who entered the Seven Stars secret realm. Ordinary small forces didn't have such good things. According to the book, the entire Seven Stars secret realm was more than 100,000 miles in diameter. There were more than 30 level 6 spirit veins and more than 200 level 5 spirit veins. There were many spirit veins below level 5. The value wasn't high, so there were no special records. The spirit vein with the highest grade was the Seven Stars Heavenly Palace at the center of the Seven Stars secret realm. This Heavenly Palace was a large group of palaces. It should be the monastery of some ancient major force. The spirit chi concentration here had already reached the limit of level 6 spirit veins. When the Seven Stars secret realm was first discovered, the spirit vein where the Seven Stars Heavenly Palace was located was still level 7. The Qixing Si Xiuxian community was the same as Beiyuan. They were also affected by decimating Heaven Abyss. Since more than 70,000 years ago, the spirit chi concentration had been declining. It was just that the influence here was much smaller than Beiyuan. Back then, the cultivators of the Sea of Seven Stars obtained many extremely valuable inheritances from the Seven Stars Heavenly Palace. There were even level 7 and higher magic artifacts that appeared. The upper echelons of the Seven Stars Alliance, the One Clan as well as the Imperial Regency back then, all obtained many inheritances from the Heavenly Palace. Several tens of thousands of years had passed. This Seven Stars Heavenly Palace had already been practically emptied. Only the core Ziwei Hall was still inaccessible. Within the Heavenly Palace, there were still many herb gardens. The value of the spirit medicines there was the highest. Every time the Heavenly Palace opened, the cultivators of various major forces would head straight for the Seven Stars Heavenly Palace to fight for those spirit medicines. Chapter 732. There was a lot of information in the book. Other than the information about the Seven Stars secret realm, there was also the basic situation of the Qixing Si Xiuxian community. The 7 largest islands in the Sea of Seven Stars were named Dubhe, Merak, Fekta, Migres, Alioth, Mizar and Alcade, just like the Big Dipper. The distribution of the 7 islands was also similar to the Big Dipper, in the shape of a spoon. The handle of the spoon pointed to the north. Alcade Island was located at the northernmost tip of the Qixing Si Xiuxian community. From the northernmost Alcade Island to the southernmost Dubhe Island, there was a distance of more than 2 million miles. The areas of the 7 islands were also different. Migres Island was the largest, with a radius of 100,000 miles. It was not a problem to call it a continent. The smallest Alcade Island had a radius of more than 50,000 miles. In addition to the countless small islands around it, the land area of the Qixing Sea Xiuxian community was not much smaller than Beiyuan Xiuxian. If the Mystic Ice Island, Myriad Demon Island, and the many subsidiary islands were included, the land area might even be larger than Beiyuan. Among the 7 islands, only Dubhe, Phecta, and Alioth were unified by a single sect. They were the body refinement sect Dubhe sect, the Phecta Palace which was famous for their equipment refinement, and the Alioth sword sect which was a sword cultivator sect. Other than these 3 sects, there was also the Divine Pill sect, Mizar sect, and other slightly weaker sections. All the sects on the 7 islands were members of the Seven Stars Alliance. Back then, the Imperial Regency was located on the largest Migres Island. At that time, the Imperial Regency not only controlled the entire Migres Island, but also a large territory on the other islands. What attracted Wang Daoyuan's interest was the Myriad Demon Island. The Myriad Demon Island should be called the Myriad Demon Archipelago. It was formed by thousands of islands of various sizes. The decimating heaven abyss also spread to the southern part of the Myriad Demon Island. According to the book, the decimating heaven abyss did not appear 70,000 years ago. Instead, it spread all the way from the west more than 50,000 years ago. Later on, a powerful being came to set up a formation to prevent the decimating heaven abyss from expanding to the north. Otherwise, the entire Qixing Sea Xiuxian community would be devoured by the decimating heaven abyss. The situation of the Myriad Demon Islands was very similar to the southern wasteland of Beiyuan Xiuxian. The spirit qi was also extremely violent. It was not suitable for ordinary people and low-level cultivators to live in. Most of the cultivators were devil cultivators. When the Imperial Regency was still around, the Myriad Devil Islands were completely obedient. Right now, the Seven Stars Alliance and Bloodshark were fighting each other to the death. He couldn't even control the Sea of Seven Stars, let alone the Myriad Devil Islands. Therefore, the power of devil cultivators on the Myriad Devil Islands was much stronger than that of the southern wasteland in Beiyuan Xiuxian. The 7-star secret realm that was going to open this time was near Hidden Yuan Island, which was more than 200,000 miles northwest of Kaiyang Island. In the following days, Wang Daoyuan continued to comprehend nomological laws and nurture Dharma artifacts in the crater of Sky Fire Island. 9 years passed by very quickly, and the opening of the 7-star mystery realm was not far away. During these 9 years, Wang Daoyuan did not waste his time. His comprehension of the fire and earth attributes had already reached the point where he could break through to Yuanying. If he was a cultivator of these 2 attributes, he could try to form his nascent soul now. Unfortunately, he was a cultivator with 5 spirit roots. He needed the nomological laws of all 5 attributes to reach the point where he could form his nascent soul before he could start to break through. However, with these 2 types of nomological laws, in addition to his minor divine abilities, his understanding of nomological laws was already stronger than ordinary cultivators. The remaining 3 types of nomological laws would not take much effort. When he reached the 7-star mystery realm, if he could find a suitable spiritual item, he would only need a few days to comprehend the nomological laws. Unfortunately, the 5-element spiritual fire that had been refined into a spiritual power seed could not break through to the 5th level. It seemed to have reached a bottleneck. No matter how much spiritual power was injected, it could not increase its power by a bit. It was the same for the spiritual fire and spirit vein in the spiritual pearl. When he started to continuously inject the 5-element spiritual power, the power of the spiritual fire rapidly increased. The spirit vein also improved very quickly. The density of the spirit qi produced was already at the level of the bottom of the treasure cauldron mountain. However, it did not increase later. It seemed that if he did not break through to the Yuanying realm, there would not be any more progress. On the other hand, the spiritual beasts had improved a lot. The red-feathered crow had successfully broken through to the upper 4th level. Dahe and Yuni had also broken through to the upper 3rd level. The 5 shields and the long sword that Wang Daoyuan had been nurturing had also recovered to the lower 5th level. With the 5th level magic artifacts, it was not a problem to resist the Yuanying heavenly tribulation. The sword intent had improved a lot. Wang Daoyuan often used sword cultivation spells in this small cave. The rock walls of the cave were condensed from the lava below and were not weak. Now that he had completely integrated the majestic sword intent, its power did not increase by leaps and bounds like before. It only increased slightly. After all, the majestic sword intent was only a small part of the white tiger sword intent. It was only a branch of the Guiyuan sword intent. It was not like the previous killing sword intent, which was the main branch of the Guiyuan sword intent. With the integration of another sword intent, the power of the Guiyuan sword intent would improve faster. After all, the deepening of the understanding of each sword intent would lead to the improvement of the entire Guiyuan sword intent. The sword cultivation spells that he had created before could also be used. The power of each of the 36 sword shadows could be 10% of the full power of the White Tiger Blade. Wang Daoyuan named this spell the Tiangang Sword Formation. He could use the 36 sword shadows to perform the sky-sealing sword prison, and its power would be greatly improved. The Guiyuan sword intent had improved further. With the 5th-level magic artifact long sword and an extremely strong physical body, he could fight with an early-stage Yuanian cultivator who did not have any divine power. If the power of laws was not enough, he would rely on his sword intent and physical strength to make up for it. The hope of winning was slim, but he could still protect himself. Apart from the comprehension of laws, all other aspects had been improved to the extreme. It was time to go to Hidden Yuan Island and enter the 7 Stars Secret Realm. Hidden Yuan Island was northeast of the Heavenly Flame Island. It was 600,000 to 700,000 kilometers away, which was not far for Wang Daoyuan. However, he did not take the flying warship there. The closer he was to the 7 large islands, the more cultivators there were. Flying warships were strictly controlled by the major forces. Even if it was a 4th-level flying warship, it was not something that anyone could use. Wang Daoyuan did not dare to use it so blatantly, so he let the clone in the space of the spiritual pearl refine a 4th-level mid-grade flying warship. The core and the spiritual power conversion device were no different from the flying warship. It was just that the outer shell was not refined into a magic artifact, nor was it inscribed with array patterns. Of course, this way the entire flying warship used a lot of materials and was lighter. Its speed was faster than a flying warship of the same level. Wang Daoyuan took the flying warship and headed northeast. It took him more than 5 days to reach the vicinity of Hidden Yuan Island. The Big Dipper originally had 9 stars. The 2 stars, Dongming and Inyuan, were hidden, so it was called the Big Dipper. The Sea of 7 Stars also had 2 islands, Hidden Yuan Island and Dongming Island. Moreover, their area was not small. In the Sea of 7 Stars, they were second only to the 7 large islands, with a radius of more than 30,000 kilometers. There were several Yuanian forces on Hidden Yuan Island, all of which were members of the 7 Stars Alliance. This place was already relatively prosperous, and now that the 7 Stars Secret Realm had opened, it was naturally more lively. There were many flying warships in the air, so Wang Daoyuan was not very conspicuous. In order to make himself look more ordinary, he wore a tight robe made of sea beast skin and disguised himself as a rough young man. His disguise naturally could not hide from the careful inspection of Yuanian cultivators. However, as long as there was nothing too obvious, no Yuanian cultivator would carefully inspect him. The 7 Stars Alliance and Blood Shark also had a tacit understanding. During the opening of the Secret Realm, both sides would stop fighting. During this period, all the cultivators on Hidden Yuan Island could freely come and go without facing strict inspection. Wang Daoyuan found a market square to settle down in the western part of Hidden Yuan Island. The entrance to the 5 Elements Secret Realm was in the western part of Hidden Yuan Island. After waiting for less than half a month, the day of the opening of the Secret Realm arrived. That morning, before dawn, everyone gathered on a seaside cliff at the westernmost part of Hidden Yuan Island. A few miles to the west of the cliff, there began to be violent fluctuations of the law of space. The moment the sun rose, a light curtain with a diameter of 3 feet appeared in the place where the law of space fluctuated. A peak Yuanian cultivator shouted, "The 7 Stars Secret Realm has opened. Those with the 7 Stars token can enter." Chapter 733. First, cultivators from the 7 Stars Alliance, Blood Shark, Black Ice Islands when family and other major powers entered. Entering the Mystic Realm first would always bring benefits. Especially the Spirit Herb Gardens in the 7 Stars Heavenly Palace. Whoever entered first would be able to obtain the precious spirit herbs first. They were the ruling forces of the Sea of 7 Stars, so no one dared to compete with them. After the cultivators from the major powers entered, the Yuanian cultivators also entered. These Yuanian cultivators were either the leaders of small powers or itinerant cultivators. However, these people were usually early or mid-stage Yuanian cultivators. The late-stage Yuanian cultivators were thinking about how to break through to the soul formation stage. The treasures in the 7 Stars Mystic Realm that could help one break through to the soul formation stage had already been taken. Perhaps there might still be some treasures in some corner, but it was extremely difficult to find them. Usually, only the major powers would send in a few late-stage Yuanian cultivators to protect them. After the Yuanian cultivators entered, it was the turn of the Golden Core itinerant cultivators, who had the largest number of people. Uncle Zhong's animal skin book had recorded the situation every time the Seven Stars Mystic Realm opened. Every time there would be a lot of people fighting over the treasures. The number of 7 stars tokens was limited. There were only 700 tokens at most. Because these 7 stars tokens randomly appeared in various parts of the 7 stars ocean's cultivation world, many 7 stars tokens were coincidentally not discovered by others. Very few people could enter the mystic realm every time. In the Qixing Si Xiuxing community, even Yuanian cultivators were not rare. There were even more golden core cultivators. What could a few hundred tokens do? The temptation of the 7 stars mystic realm was too great. Naturally, people would take the risk. Every time the mystic realm opened, there would be people guarding the entrance to snatch the 7 stars tokens. Most of these people were peak stage golden core cultivators. There were also a few Yuanian cultivators who were thick-skinned enough. Now that they dared to show themselves, there would definitely be people trying to snatch the 7 stars tokens. However, there was never a lack of hotheads in the world. After the Yuanian cultivators entered the light screen, a peak stage golden core cultivator rushed forward. The moment he flashed the 7 stars order, 3 cultivators flew out from the crowd and attacked him. One of them was an early Yuanian cultivator. The cultivator who took out the 7 stars token was besieged by the 3 of them. Naturally, he was no match for them. Soon he threw out the 7 stars token and fled. The 7 stars token also fell into the hands of the early Yuanian cultivator. Seeing this situation, the remaining cultivators did not dare to enter. Wang Daoyuan didn't want to be the first one to stand out. If he exposed his strength in advance and was targeted by the Yuanian cultivators, it would be troublesome. The rogue cultivators already had a plan to deal with this situation. Several rogue cultivators entered in groups, and very few people dared to snatch them. Soon, 5 peak golden core cultivators flew towards the entrance. This time no one dared to make a move. Next, hundreds of cultivators at the peak and later stage of the golden core realm were divided into more than 20 groups and successfully entered the secret realm. Of course, not every cultivator had a large group of friends. There were also quite a few who slipped away alone. At this time, no one dared to look for teammates at the last minute. Whether they had the 7 stars order or not, it would not be written on their faces. The longer they stayed until the end, the higher the probability of being snatched. Soon, 2 more peak golden core cultivators flew up from different places and rushed towards the light screen. Next, 3 peak golden core cultivators and 1 early Yuanian cultivator went forward to snatch the token. Wang Daoyuan saw the opportunity and pretended to snatch the token and flew up. The 2 peak golden core cultivators were soon unable to resist and their tokens were snatched away. The Yuanian cultivator naturally snatched one and entered the secret realm. The 3 late golden core cultivators fought for the remaining token. Wang Daoyuan took the opportunity to take out the 7 stars order. After injecting his spiritual power, the token emitted a ray of light that shone on the light screen. Then the token disappeared and a stream of energy from the light screen entered Wang Daoyuan's body. This stream of energy was extremely weak and stopped in his dantian without any movement. According to the animal skin book given by Uncle Zhong, this stream of energy was used to identify cultivators with the 7 stars order. Without this stream of energy, one would not be able to pass through the light screen. The whole process took less than half a breath, and the other cultivators did not have time to make a move. Wang Daoyuan stepped into the secret realm. This secret realm was completely different from the small secret realms he had seen before. The secret realm over there was like a door. After entering, one would appear at a fixed place. This light screen was more like a teleportation array. Those who entered the light screen would appear at random places on the light screen, except for the 7-star sky palace. Wang Daoyuan appeared in a grassland with sparse trees. There were no traces of other people around, only some rank 2 horse-type herbivorous spirit beasts. He changed into the black magic robe and used the concealment devil art to conceal all his aura. In the space of the spirit pearl, his clone checked the animal skin book given by Uncle Zhong and determined the location of this place. This was the 10,000 horses plain, and there were many horse-type spirit beasts living here. However, the grade of the spirit veins in this place was generally not high, and there were very few spiritual items produced. Wang Daoyuan was not interested in staying here. His main purpose was to find rank 5 spiritual items and comprehend the power of laws to try to break through to Yuanying. The 10,000 horses plain was located in the eastern region of the secret realm. Further east was a lake called Bright Mirror Lake, and there were a few nameless small mountain ranges around it. Further east was the border of the secret realm. There was a mid-grade rank 5 water-type spirit vein around Bright Mirror Lake. Back then this place was also a rank 6 spirit vein, and there were many dragon-type mutated beasts and rank 6 spiritual plants. After tens of thousands of years of sweeping, there were no high-value spiritual items in this border area. Of course, there were very few cultivators here, and it was a good place to transcend the tribulation. Wang Daoyuan set up the flying boat and headed east. 2 hours later he arrived at the shore of Bright Mirror Lake. There was a stream of dragon chi in the spirit chi here. However, the concentration was not high, and it was not as high as his own Jade Spring Peak. Wang Daoyuan was not worried about any high-level demonic beasts here. They were swept once every 500 years and demonic beasts could not grow at all. After landing, he released Dahe from the space of the spiritual pearl and let it smell whether there were rank 4 or rank 5 spiritual plants nearby. After Dahe advanced, the range of its sense of smell had reached 1,000 miles. It was also used to the many rank 4 spiritual plants in the space, and it had no problem identifying rank 4 or 5 spiritual plants. After Dahe sniffed hard, it said, "Master, there is the aura of a mid-grade rank 4 spiritual plant on the island in the center of the lake." Wang Daoyuan suddenly became interested. The spiritual plants here were swept once every 500 years, and there was not enough time to grow. Therefore, a mid-grade rank 4 spiritual plant was likely to be a seedling of a rank 5 spiritual plant. Wang Daoyuan immediately flew over. This small island had a radius of more than 3 miles. The island was lush with vegetation and rank 1 and 2 spiritual plants were everywhere. In the center of the island was a small hill more than 300 feet high, and there was a spiritual spring on the mountain. The spiritual plant that Dahe found was on the bank of the spiritual spring. It was a small sapling only a foot tall, and the branches and leaves looked like an orange tree. Although there was nothing special about it, a small sapling could reach the mid-grade rank 4. It was not impossible for it to grow to rank 5 in the future. It did not matter what kind of plant it was. Even if it was a grass, it would be of great use when it grew to rank 5. Even if it could not grow to rank 5, it did not matter. The rank 4 spiritual fruit could be brought back to Zhouwan as a snack. Wang Daoyuan directly cut off all the surrounding rocks and put them into the space of the spiritual pearl. This spiritual spring was also a mid-grade rank 5, and it was suitable for comprehending the law. Several formations were set up on this mountain to hide the aura and avoid detection. He drew out a wisp of Gui water hell flame and put it on the spiritual spring, and the black flame burned fiercely. Wang Daoyuan constantly drew spiritual power from the flame, carefully comprehending the power of law in it. Originally, there was a small magical power, and the power of the law of the 5 elements was in his hands. If he wanted to comprehend it now, it would be a matter of poking through a window paper. If his comprehension of the law was not enough, he would not be able to find where this window paper was. And he already had the law of earth and fire attributes as a reference, and the window paper was in front of him. 5 days later, Wang Daoyuan's comprehension of the law of water attribute reached the level of Yuanying. It took 5 days to harvest a spiritual plant that could grow to rank 5, and the law of water attribute also had a breakthrough, which was a small gain. Chapter 734. There was nothing in the Mirror Lake that could attract cultivators, so there would not be many cultivators willing to come here. From this point of view, it was indeed a good place to break the core and form the nascent soul. However, it also had a fatal weakness. There was only a water attribute spirit vein here. Breaking the core and forming the nascent soul required spirit chi of the 5 elements, which was obviously not enough here. If he could find a spirit item that could assist in forming the nascent soul, it would be a good place to transcend the tribulation. If he could not find one, he would have to find a place with a grade 5 spirit vein. According to the records in the Beast Book, there was a grade 5 wood attribute spirit vein more than 10,000 miles south of the Mirror Lake. It was also a peripheral area, and there had been no records of grade 5 spirit items for many years. Yuanying cultivators would definitely disdain to come to such a place. Even if they did not dare to go to the 7 Stars Heavenly Palace to compete for opportunities, their goal would be a grade 6 spirit vein. There would not be too much of a threat near the grade 5 spirit vein. Riding the grade 4 flying boat, he soon arrived near the wood attribute spirit vein. There was a large forest with a radius of 500 miles, and there were all kinds of plants. Unfortunately, there were no more grade 4 spirit plants or above. There were also traces of a large number of cultivators in the forest. It seemed that other cultivators had beaten them to it. Wang Daoyuan found a place with dense vegetation and used the flying sand escape to enter the ground and arrived beside the spirit vein. A grade 5 spirit vein was indeed extraordinary. The spirit vein crystal was jade-like in color and was transparent, emitting rich wood attribute spirit chi. He used the dust-returning flame to burn a 10-foot square stone room next to the spirit vein crystal. He set up a spirit gathering array and let a large amount of wood attribute spirit chi into the stone room. He then used the life spirit fire to ignite the spirit chi. The more laws one comprehended, the better the reference effect, and the shorter the time needed to comprehend new elemental laws. This time he only used 3 days to comprehend the wood attribute law. He did not pay attention to the spirit vein. Cutting off a section of the spirit vein crystal alone was not very useful. If he wanted to obtain the entire spirit vein, he would have to dig out the entire spirit vein crystal, which was too time-consuming. Wang Daoyuan did not have time to waste on it. After comprehending the wood attribute law, he left the forest. There was only one metal attribute law left. His returning origin sword intent focused on killing. By deepening his understanding of the metal attribute law, it could greatly increase his strength. According to the records in the book, the nearest metal-type spirit vein was about 30,000 miles to the southwest. It was a small mountain range called the Golden Sun Mountain. In the mountain range there was a rank 5 spirit vein and a rank 6 spirit vein. Back when the Imperial Regency was still around, a large number of puppets would be brought over to mine ores every time the secret realm opened. Now it was almost empty. However, there were still many golden core cultivators who went there every year to try their luck. After all, it was a 6th-tier refining material. If he could pick up a piece, it would be a huge profit. Every time the 7-star secret realm opened, there would be cultivators who would pick up scraps of tier 6 crafting materials. As a result, it was always quite lively over there. Wang Daoyuan was a cultivator at the peak of the Golden Core realm, so he would not be too conspicuous there. It took them more than 4 hours to arrive at Gold Sun Mountain on the flying boat. After using the spirit-seeking compass to find the general direction of the spirit vein, he entered the mine. Since he had been concealing his aura, he had not been discovered by the Golden Core cultivators. Wang Daoyuan was not interested in the rank 6 ores. After reaching the Soul Formation realm, he could get as many ores as he wanted. The most important thing now was to break through the realm as soon as possible. After reaching the Yuanying realm, he would go to the 7 Stars Heavenly Palace to try his luck. If he was lucky, he might be able to collect enough spirit herbs to return to Beiyuan Xiuxian. He found a crack in the rock layer and used the sand escape to enter it. He followed the crack to a depth of more than 10,000 feet. It was still the same old method. He found the location of the metal-type spirit vein crystal, opened up a stone room, and set up a spirit gathering array to attract the metal-type spirit energy. After igniting the Tai golden flame, he extracted the spirit energy from it and comprehended the laws. This time, the speed of comprehension was faster. It only took him 2 days. His comprehension of the 5 elements had reached the point where it was enough to break through. It was time to look for spiritual items to form his nascent soul. Cultivators with 5 spirit veins could attempt to break their core and form their nascent soul without the help of external items. Whether they succeeded or not was another matter. There was no guarantee that they could break their core and form their nascent soul. The later heavenly tribulations would be even more dangerous. With an inferior grade tier 5 defensive Dharma artifact, the first 5 heavenly tribulations would not be much of a problem. At most, he would be slightly injured. The later divine power tribulations would not be easy. He would need to use his own divine power to fight against the heavenly tribulations. Wang Daoyuan's comprehension of lesser divine power was not strong enough. The threat of the divine power tribulations was too great. Just as he was about to leave this place and look for spiritual items to help him form his nascent soul, he suddenly felt an unusual metal-type spirit energy fluctuation coming from the spirit vein. This fluctuation was very weak. If not for his recent improvement in metal-type laws and the increase in his ability to sense metal-type spiritual items, he would not have been able to detect this fluctuation. It was like a spirit vein crystal, but there were obvious differences. It did not exceed tier 5, so it should not be the leftovers of ores. It was not strange for a superior grade tier 5 spirit vein to give birth to treasures. It was a good opportunity to investigate. It had been 10 days since he entered the 7 Stars secret realm. There were still 20 days before the secret realm closed. He had plenty of time. He released the returning dust flame and Grand Unity golden flames to burn a tunnel in the rock stratum. Then he groped his way to the place where the spiritual fluctuation came from. The distance was not far. After a few minutes, Wang Daoyuan dug his way over. When he reached the place, he saw a 1-foot-long silver crystal growing out of the spirit vein crystal. This crystal looked familiar. It was very similar to the earth essence in the space of the spiritual pearl. It was just that their attributes were different. This thing was most likely hepta-gold essence. It was a treasure that could only be nurtured by a metal-type spirit vein of Tier 4 and above. This was nurtured by a superior grade Tier 5 spirit vein. If he took out a small piece and merged it with a small metal-type spirit vein, he would be able to nurture it. After 1,000 years, the spirit vein might rise to Tier 5. Apart from that, he could also forge some high-grade Dharma artifacts, especially offensive ones. Adding hepta-gold essence would increase their power. When he reforged the white tiger blade in the future, he could add it in. Wang Daoyuan took out the white tiger blade and slashed the hepta-gold essence. It was similar to the earth essence. Although it contained extremely pure spiritual energy, it was not very strong. He kept it in the space of the spiritual pearl and placed it on the metal-type spirit vein. After the two grew together, the hepta-gold essence could promote the advancement of the spirit vein. The spirit vein could also promote the growth of the hepta-gold essence. After obtaining the benefits, Wang Daoyuan went back the way he came and returned to the mine. He planned to leave the Golden Sun Mountain to look for spiritual items that could help him form his nascent soul. He walked out of the mine and found a secluded place. He took out a Tier 4 flying boat and flew towards the west. After flying for a few dozen miles, a golden light as thick as a water bucket shot over. This golden light was extremely fast and contained metal-type laws. Wang Daoyuan did not care about the flying boat. He hurriedly used the sky-splitting sword teleportation to dodge the attack. Under the golden light, the flying boat was split into two. A surprised voice sounded, "What a powerful junior. You can actually dodge my attack. Moreover, you're a sword cultivator. Junior, you've only been in the Golden Sun Mountain for 2 days and left in a hurry. You must have obtained something good. Give it to me and I'll spare your life. If you don't hand it over, I'll take your life as well." Wang Daoyuan was still in shock. From the power of laws contained in the golden light and the words of the attacker, he knew that this person was a Yuanian cultivator. Just as he was hesitating, another golden light suddenly appeared and attacked him. Wang Daoyuan did not take the attack. He only took out a low-grade Tier 5 sword and used the sky-splitting sword teleportation to escape again. However, this golden light chased after him relentlessly. Helpless, he could only use the Sword Shadow Divine Light technique to block the golden light. 10 sword shadows slashed at the golden light. The sword shadows directly melted when they met the golden light. It took 8 sword shadows to exhaust the power of the golden light. This time Wang Daoyuan was relieved. The opponent was an early-stage Yuanian cultivator. He still had the strength to fight. Chapter 735. The Yuanian cultivator said in surprise, "Not bad. You were able to take one of my attacks." Wang Daoyuan did not dare to provoke him any further. He immediately recovered the 8 sword shadows and continued to flee in the west. The Yuanian cultivator hesitated for a moment, but still chased after Wang Daoyuan. The speed of a nascent soul cultivator was naturally much faster than a golden core cultivator. After a dozen breaths, Wang Daoyuan saw a flash of golden light and a figure suddenly appeared in front of him. This person had a pale face and no beard. He looked like a young man. He wore a golden Taoist robe and a golden crown. He was dressed in a luxurious manner, but under the watchful eyes of the Golden Sun Mountain, he was not a capable person. Seeing that he had caught up, Wang Daoyuan wielded his sword. Streaks of silver light circulated around his body. This was sword chi. As long as the opponent made any strange movements, he could condense the demon-slaying sword at any time. The sword shadows formed by the Sword Shadow Divine Light technique continued to revolve around his body. The golden-robed cultivator had a look of victory on his face. "Junior, you're quite skilled. If you're willing to sign a master-servant contract with me and pledge your loyalty to me, I can spare your life. I can even give you a chance to break through to the Yuanian realm in the future." A master-servant contract was similar to a demon beast recognizing its master. Once it was signed, the servant would be in so much pain that he wished he was dead. If the master wanted the servant dead, the servant would not be able to resist. The golden-robed cultivator in front of him could not be considered an expert in the early Yuanian realm. He was even weaker than his master by a large margin. This kind of trash wanted him to submit. Even if the opponent was extremely strong and he could not resist, he would not become a servant, let alone an opponent who could not completely suppress him. Wang Daoyuan did not answer him. Instead, he used his spiritual sense to forcefully suppress the last type of penetrating sword intent and the sword of origin restoration. The silver streaks of light quickly gathered together and condensed into a 100-meter-long giant sword that slashed towards the golden-robed cultivator. The golden-robed cultivator's expression turned serious. He took out a 5th-grade mirror magic artifact. The mirror was silver and the edges were golden. It looked like a nouveau riche. The mirror also released strands of fake light, which condensed into a huge golden sword to block Wang Daoyuan's huge sword. After a loud boom, the two giant swords were completely shattered, scattering into two streams of golden and silver light. Wang Daoyuan's silver sword chi was at a disadvantage, completely suppressed by the golden light. After the silver sword chi was completely annihilated, the golden light rushed towards Wang Daoyuan again, but it also dissipated under the obstruction of the 10 sword shadows. In this exchange, Wang Daoyuan was undoubtedly at a disadvantage, but the golden-robed cultivator did not gain any advantage either. The golden-robed cultivator's face turned extremely tangled. He did not expect to encounter such a troublesome fellow. It would be very difficult to take him down. His previous threats were completely useless. If he fought with his life on the line, even if he managed to kill it, he would still be severely injured. Who knew how many people would be waiting to take advantage of him if he was seriously injured in this mystic realm? It was not worth risking his life for a golden core junior. If he were to let it go just like that, he would feel a little embarrassed. Wang Daoyuan did not have the confidence to win at all, nor did he want to drag it out with him. Neither of them took the initiative to attack again. Just like that, the confrontation lasted for dozens of breaths and the situation was a little awkward. Wang Daoyuan did not want to waste time with him either. 10 sword shadows flew out and slashed towards the golden-robed cultivator while he used sand escape to escape underground. His opponent was a metal attribute cultivator and could not use earth escape. Even if he had an earth attribute escape talisman, he would not be a match for him underground. The golden-robed cultivator waved his hand and shot out 2 golden lights, shattering all 10 sword shadows. When he saw Wang Daoyuan escape underground, he did not continue chasing after him. He merely harumphed coldly. "Reckless Junior. If you fall into my hands, I'll make sure you suffer a fate worse than death." After saying those words, he no longer entangled himself with Wang Daoyuan and flew away. Wang Daoyuan heaved a sigh of relief as well. Thankfully he did not encounter the stubborn donkey. Otherwise, it would be too troublesome for him to continue entangling with him. He escaped towards the west for more than 1,000 kilometers before coming out of the ground. Since his flying boat was destroyed previously, Wang Daoyuan took out his low-grade Grade 4 flying warship to use first. He had a few clones in the space of the Spirit Pearl to refine the flying boat. After flying towards the west for more than 30,000 kilometers, he arrived at Drifting Cloud Mountain. There was a Grade 5 elemental spirit vein here. If he could ensure his safety, it would be a good place to shatter his core and form his nascent soul. Of course, there were many cultivators who came to explore this place. It was too risky to form one's nascent soul here. The main reason why Wang Daoyuan came here was because there were 2 types of spiritual items that were helpful for forming one's nascent soul. One of them was the core-shattering grass and the other was the nascent formation fruit. The core-shattering grass could shatter a cultivator's golden core. It was a type of poison that posed a great threat to golden core cultivators. However, some cultivators' foundations were too solid and their golden cores were too sturdy. They might not be able to shatter their golden cores. This was especially true for genius disciples who were more prone to such situations. Wang Daoyuan had a solid foundation and it would not be easy for him to shatter his golden core. The medicinal properties of the core-shattering grass could solve the problem of his golden core being too sturdy. The nascent formation fruit could help the fragments of the golden core fuse with the soul. When Wang Daoyuan wanted to form his nascent soul, he needed to fuse all 5 spiritual power seeds into his Yuanying. The difficulty of forming one's nascent soul was higher than that of ordinary cultivators. It was safer to have the nascent formation fruit. These 2 items could definitely be found in the 7 Stars Heavenly Palace. However, the Heavenly Palace had already been divided by several major forces. If he went there now, he would easily be besieged by the Yuanying cultivators. With his current strength, he would definitely die if he was besieged by the Yuanying cultivators. He could only try his luck at a place like Drifting Cloud Mountain that once produced such spiritual herbs. Drifting Cloud Mountain lived up to its name. The entire mountain was more than 5,000 kilometers long and 2,000 kilometers wide from north to south. The highest point was more than 6,000 feet and there were clouds and mist on the mountain. A gentle breeze blew past and the clouds and mist moved with the wind. The beast skin book that Uncle Zhong gave him did not indicate the specific location of the core-shattering grass and nascent formation fruit. He could only slowly search for them. Just as he was about to release the soul-chasing bees to investigate, a group of people flew over from the north. The 2 people in front were running away and the 3 people behind were chasing after them. Wang Daoyuan naturally did not want to meddle in other people's business and wanted to leave this place as soon as possible. At that moment he heard one of them ask, "My lord, the people ahead have discovered us. How should we deal with them?" Another person replied, "This matter must not be leaked. We'll deal with them together." Wang Daoyuan cursed in his heart. Wasn't this an unexpected disaster? I only came here to try my luck, but they just had to drag me in. Among the 3 people chasing after them, there was an early Yuanian cultivator. With his strength he could barely deal with an early Yuanian cultivator. Coupled with the 2 peak golden core cultivators, he would definitely die. Wang Daoyuan put away the flying warship and put on the black devil robe. He then used the devil concealment art to hide his tracks. He was only testing them. If they couldn't discover him, then he would escape. If they could discover him, then he would help the 2 cultivators who were being chased and give the 3 people a good beating. At that moment someone shouted, "Daoyuzhou, save our lives." Wang Daoyuan recognized who this person was. It was Uncle Zhong. The other person's identity was self-evident. It was most likely the Black Ice Fairy. It was truly a case of people running into each other everywhere in life. He couldn't avoid trouble even if he wanted to. After hearing Uncle Zhong's words, the early Yuanian cultivator who was chasing after them said, "So they're accomplices. All the more reason we can't let them go." This time, it was as if yellow mud had fallen into his pants. Even if it wasn't shit, it was shit. He stopped running and slowly approached the group of people. Soon, Uncle Zhong and the Black Ice Fairy arrived near him. The people chasing after them had also arrived. Wang Daoyuan did not dare to act rashly under the watchful eyes of the Yuanian cultivators. When the people chasing after them passed by him, he suddenly attacked. He took out his 5th-grade sword and slashed at a peak golden core cultivator with all his might. The golden core cultivator thought that he had already escaped. He didn't expect that he would be so bold. He actually dared to attack him under the watchful eyes of the Yuanian cultivators. Due to the fact that he was unprepared and his overwhelming strength, the peak golden core cultivator was unable to resist. A silver light flashed and his head flew high into the air. Chapter 736. Even if a Yuanian cultivator's body was destroyed, he still had the option of ejecting his Yuanian. Although a golden core cultivator's soul could survive for a period of time after death, it didn't have the ability to escape on its own. Being decapitated meant that death was inevitable. The Yuanian cultivator's reaction was extremely fast. He waved his hand and a scarlet ball of spirit energy shot towards Wang Daoyuan. Wang Daoyuan used the void-piercing sword escape technique and turned into a sword to increase the distance between them. Silver light surrounded his body and turned into 36 sword shadows that shot towards the scarlet ball of spirit energy. All the sword shadows were destroyed before they could block the attack. Afterwards, he dispersed the escape technique and used the devil concealment art to hide himself again. The Yuanian cultivator spread out his divine sense to investigate the situation around him. After searching for a full 3 breaths of time, he still couldn't find any trace of Wang Daoyuan. This time he was a bit scared. A cultivator who could take his attack head-on had such a powerful concealment technique. This level of strength was enough to threaten his life. If this continued, the 2 golden core cultivators wouldn't be the only ones to die. He recalled that before he came, his superiors had ordered him to capture the Black Ice Fairy alive. Unless it was absolutely necessary, he couldn't take her life. At this time he had no choice but to be ruthless. If he let her escape, things would get out of hand. Thinking of this, his spirit energy surged. A scarlet ball of spirit energy condensed in his hands. Wang Daoyuan naturally saw that this old man wanted to kill him. He used the sword shadow divine light technique and 10 sword shadows appeared out of thin air, slashing towards the Yuanian cultivator. This person attacked with all his strength, wanting to kill the Black Ice Fairy and Uncle Zhong. Now that he was being ambushed, he had no other way to defend himself. He could only use the spell he hadn't finished charging in his hands to attack the sword shadows. 100-meter-long fire dragon engulfed the 10 sword shadows. Under the fire dragon's entanglement, the sword shadows were unable to resist and quickly turned into nothingness. At this moment, Wang Daoyuan had hidden himself again. His divine sense could not detect him. Naturally, he could not control the fire dragon to attack again. Although he could control the fire dragon to attack the Black Ice Fairy and Uncle Zhong, He did not dare to act rashly when there was an expert hiding beside him who could threaten his life. He only used the fire dragon to protect himself and shouted, "Retreat!" Hearing this, the peak golden core cultivator felt as if he had been pardoned and hurriedly moved closer to him. The two of them flew north together. They didn't even take the corpse of the peak Oris core stage cultivator with them. Wang Daoyuan had taken action twice, and both times he had taken his opponent by surprise. Now he absolutely did not dare to make a move. It wasn't until the two of them had flown more than 1,000 miles north that he finally let out a sigh of relief. He took the universe ring of the gold core cultivator and flew to the side of the Black Ice Fairy and Uncle Zhong. After revealing herself, the Black Ice Fairy's face was filled with joy. "Thank you, Daoyu Zhou, for saving me." Wang Daoyuan said unhappily, "Uncle Zhong, you didn't handle this matter very well. We're even now, and now you're dragging me down with you. Now you owe me 2 lives. Uncle Zhong had a scoundrel look on his face. "We don't have anything valuable on us. If you want compensation, you can take my life at any time. The young lady will also compensate you. You can do whatever you want with her. As long as you agree, I'll cut my own throat to apologize." This old man was really shameless. What else could he do after compensating him with the Black Ice Fairy? Wang Daoyuan waved his hand and said, "You're already so old. Why are you still so shameless? I came to Drifting Cloud Mountain to look for the core fragmentation grass and the nascent formation fruit. You're from the One Clan, so you should know the specific location of these 2 spiritual items. If you don't take out these 2 spiritual items, don't blame me for being impolite." Uncle Zhong's expression was not very good. Last time when the 7 Stars Mystery Realm opened, the old master also came in. At that time he found the core fragmentation grass and the nascent formation fruit on Drifting Cloud Mountain. At that time they weren't ripe yet, so he didn't pick them. He wrote down the situation and left it for the young lady. This time, the young lady and I took the risk to come here to pick the core fragmentation grass and the nascent formation fruit. However, the old master didn't find much. If he gave all of them to Daoyu, the young lady wouldn't have any spiritual items to help her form her nascent soul. Wang Daoyuan said with a smile, "I only want these things to be safe. Even without these things, I still have some confidence in forming my nascent soul. Just give me 2 core fragmentation grass and 1 nascent formation fruit." The nascent formation fruit doesn't only bear 1 fruit, right? As long as he had the nascent formation fruit, he could guarantee his safety. Even if he failed to break his core, he wouldn't lose anything. He could just find other spiritual items in the future. The most frightening thing was that he couldn't form his nascent soul after breaking his core. That would be very troublesome. Uncle Zhong nodded. "I can still take out 2 core fragmentation grass and 1 nascent formation fruit. Since Daoyu needs them, I'll take them to thank Daoyu for saving my life. Daoyu, come with me." After saying that, he flew south with the Black Ice Fairy. Wang Daoyuan also hid his figure and followed behind. Soon, Uncle Zhong stopped at the bottom of a mountain. The Black Ice Fairy took out a token. With a flash of light, a huge rock at the foot of the mountain automatically moved away. There was a cave inside. The 3 of them entered the cave, and the huge rock returned to its original position. The cave was relatively narrow and could only allow 1 person to enter at a time. After walking for more than 100 feet, their eyes suddenly opened up. There was actually a small medicinal garden in the belly of the mountain. This medicinal garden was indeed too small, only 2 mu of land. However, the facilities in this medicinal garden weren't bad. There was a 5th grade high-grade spirit spring watering it, which continuously provided spiritual energy to the spiritual field. However, since no one took care of it, most of the spiritual plants withered and died. Only a dozen 5th grade high-grade spirit herbs were left. Among them, there was a small tree that was more than 3 feet tall with 3 fruits hanging on it. The shape of these fruits was exactly the same as a baby. However, these fruits were only about an inch tall. The other dozen or so spirit herbs were divided into 2 types. One type of spirit plant was dark green and its leaves were a bit like a scorpion. This was the core fragmentation grass, which was highly poisonous. In addition, there was another type of spirit plant that looked like a small withered branch. Wang Daoyuan couldn't name it. Uncle Zhong picked a nascent formation fruit, 2 core fragmentation grass, and a spirit plant that looked like a withered branch. "Thank you, Daoyu Zhou, for saving us. This is our thanks to you." Wang Daoyuan didn't stand on ceremony. He took the 3 spiritual items and carefully observed them. There was nothing to see about the core fragmentation grass, so he directly put it into the space in his spiritual pearl and planted it. There was no core in the nascent formation fruit. He reached out and plucked a 3-inch long branch from the nascent formation fruit tree. I like planting spirit plants, so I'll use this as practice. Also, what kind of spirit plant is this thing that looks like a withered branch? Wang Daoyuan plucked a branch from the nascent formation fruit tree. Uncle Zhong naturally didn't have any objections. He said, "This spirit plant is called rejuvenation grass. It has always looked like this since it sprouted. When it's old enough, it will grow green leaves. When it's plucked, it'll be a holy healing medicine. Not only can it heal injuries quickly, but it can also regrow limbs even if they're missing. This function of regrowing limbs is only useful for cultivators below the Golden Core realm. Golden Core realm cultivators' bodies have improved greatly. This medicine isn't effective enough to regrow limbs for cultivators above the Golden Core realm. Please don't try it." Wang Daoyuan was very interested in the rejuvenation grass. A good healing medicine was very valuable. He put these things into the space in his spiritual pearl and planted them near the life spiritual fire. Uncle Zhong plucked the remaining 2 nascent formation fruits and left only 1 core fragmentation grass. After putting away these spirit plants, he asked Wang Daoyuan, "After leaving the secret realm, I'm afraid it'll be difficult to find a suitable place to form your nascent soul. Dao, you must be thinking of breaking your core to form your nascent soul in the secret realm. Do you need us to protect you?" Wang Daoyuan smiled. "I do want to break my core to form my nascent soul in the secret realm, but there's no need to protect me. I'm already prepared." He planned to let his clone and the red-feathered crow guard him. Now that he had the core fragmentation grass and the nascent formation fruit, he didn't need to absorb 5th-level spirit power from the outside world. It wouldn't take much effort to form his nascent soul. He could go to a remote place like Jingming Lake to form his nascent soul. Of course, it wasn't impossible to form his nascent soul outside, but he still wanted to plunder the 7 Stars Heavenly Palace. The secret realm opened once every 500 years. If he didn't plunder a layer of the ground, he would be letting down this opportunity. Chapter 737. After hearing Wang Daoyuan's words, the Black Ice Fairy looked disappointed. Uncle Zhong cupped his hands and said, "Thank you for your help, Dai. I wish Daoyu success in your nascent soul formation." Wang Daoyuan also cupped his hands and said, "Goodbye." After saying that, he turned invisible and left this place. He steered the flying warship along the edge of the mystic realm and flew towards the Jingming Lake. In the 7 Stars mystic realm, the place with the densest spiritual energy was near the 7 Stars Heavenly Palace. The spiritual energy at the edge was thinner and there were fewer spiritual items. Naturally, there were not many cultivators there. Even Golden Core cultivators were not willing to come to this place, so Yuanian cultivators would not stay at the edge. Along the way, he only encountered a few injured peak stage Golden Core cultivators. Wang Daoyuan was in a hurry, so he did not bother with them. These people naturally did not dare to find trouble with Wang Daoyuan, so both sides were at peace. It only took half a day to return to the Jingming Lake. He had already asked Dahe to check before. The spiritual plants of the highest grade in the vicinity had already been taken into the space of the spiritual pearl. There were some spiritual fish in the lake, but their grades were not high. Wang Daoyuan used the water dragon technique to drive all of them into a stream that flowed into the Jingming Lake, blocking the entrance of the stream. These spiritual fish were more than 200 miles away from the island in the center of the lake. Last time when his master formed his nascent soul, the heavenly might only covered an area of 50 miles. The range of his heavenly tribulation was slightly larger, but it should not exceed 200 miles. Then he released the soul-chasing bees and asked them to search within a radius of 20,000 miles. He also asked Yun Yi to carry Dahe around this area. Fortunately, there were no traces of cultivators in this area. Even an early-stage Yuanian cultivator would need more than 3 hours to come from 20,000 miles away. Moreover, there was not much movement during the nascent soul formation. Only the thunder tribulation could attract cultivators from 20,000 miles away. From the beginning of the thunder tribulation to the gift of heaven and earth, it would only take about 3 hours. Wang Daoyuan released his doppelganger Liao Yang, Blood Demon, and Scarlet Feather from the Spirit Pearl space. Among the 3 of them, Liao Yang was the weakest, but he was still a third-rate Golden Core realm cultivator. The Blood Demon had a strong physical body and could reach the level of a second-rate Golden Core. Redwing Crow's strength was even stronger. Now he had the battle prowess of a first-rate Golden Core. If a cultivator at the peak of the Golden Core stage came to join in the fun, they would definitely die. The 3 of them combined definitely wouldn't be enough to deal with an early-stage Yuanian cultivator, but it wouldn't be a problem for them to stall for a while. Wang Daoyuan gave the 2 black devil robes to the 2 doppelgangers and told them to hide. In addition, he released Qin Jiaoyi and had him set up an array formation around Mirror Lake. If there really was a Yuanying coming over, they could use the array formation to delay them for a while. During this time, Wang Daoyuan was meditating beside the spirit spring on the island in the middle of the lake. After adjusting his body to its peak condition, he drank 2 jars of 100-fruit wine. It had been more than 20 years since they set off from Beiyuan, and more than 1,000 years had passed in the space of the spirit pearl. It was originally a 4th-grade spirit wine, and it had been stored for many years with the secret technique of the winemakers. Although it hadn't reached the 5th grade yet, the spiritual energy in it had already reached the level of an upper-grade 4th-grade spirit wine. The 2 jars of 1,000-year-old 100-fruit wine could provide a lot of spiritual energy. He drank some spirit wine in advance so that he wouldn't have insufficient spiritual energy when he formed his nascent soul. Absorbing spiritual energy from the outside world was a waste of time. Then he ate the core fragmentation herb. This herb was worthy of being an upper-grade 4th-grade poisonous herb. Its effects were really good. After eating it, it instantly turned into a stream of spiritual energy and entered his body. This stream of spiritual energy didn't harm his body. Instead, it flowed through his meridians all the way to his dantian. With the external spiritual energy, the 5-element spiritual fire instantly surrounded it, wanting to refine this ball of spiritual energy. Wang Daoyuan was still counting on this thing to break his golden core, so he naturally wouldn't let the spiritual fire destroy its medicinal properties. After suppressing the 5-element spiritual fire, this stream of spiritual energy fused into his golden core. This medicinal effect was really not simple. After fusing with his golden core, Wang Daoyuan clearly felt that his golden core was unstable. He didn't try to suppress it and directly forced the golden core out of his body. The golden core rapidly expanded. The golden core that was originally only a foot in diameter had now expanded to 5 feet in size. Then the golden core shattered into countless pieces. A purple ball with a diameter of 2 feet flew out from between Wang Daoyuan's eyebrows. This was his purple mansion. The spiritual pearl inside had already come out and was now staying in his sea of consciousness. If this living ancestor left his sea of consciousness, the spiritual energy in the entire mystic realm would be sucked dry. Since his purple mansion had already appeared, the golden core fragments quickly gathered towards it. Wang Daoyuan quickly swallowed the nascent soul fruit, and the golden core fragments gathered even faster. At this moment, his purple mansion was also rapidly crumbling. The 5 elements divine beast avatar turned into a divine beast phantom and hovered near the Yuanying that was about to take shape. At this moment, Wang Daoyuan released the 5 spiritual energy seeds from his dantian. Breaking the core and forming the nascent soul was like being reborn. Now that the spiritual energy seeds had fused into his body, it was like the Yuanying was born with spiritual energy seeds. They could completely fuse together without any rejection. If he didn't fuse them into his Yuanying now, they would only be external things when he fused them in the future. There was a huge difference between natural things and external things in terms of compatibility with the body. The spiritual energy seeds flew out and circled around his soul. The fist-sized spiritual energy seeds quickly shrunk to the size of a grain of rice and became extremely condensed. At this moment, the nascent soul fruit that Wang Daoyuan had consumed took effect. A special white jade-colored energy flew out of his body and gathered the golden core fragments and purple mansion fragments together. Wang Daoyuan's soul controlled the spiritual energy seeds and fused them into his soul first. The 5 spiritual energy seeds corresponded to the positions of the 5 internal organs. The golden core and purple mansion fragments began to fuse into his soul. Under the effect of the nascent soul fruit, the process was very fast. It only took 5 minutes for the fusion to be completed. A 4 inches 9 centimeters tall Yuanying with a body as white as jade appeared right above Wang Daoyuan. Wang Daoyuan had always paid special attention to the balance of the 5 spiritual energy seeds, although each spiritual energy seed had its own advantages and disadvantages. But under his best efforts to balance them, their grades were always the same. Now that the spiritual energy seeds didn't reject each other, their strength wasn't exactly the same, but it didn't matter. Ordinary people had weak kidneys and other things, and their 5 internal organs couldn't be completely balanced. The subtle differences didn't affect them much. The 5 divine beasts constantly circled around the Yuanying, as if they were looking for their own position. Without the purple mansion, they couldn't find their home. After circling for a while, the 5 divine beasts emitted a bright yellow light. After a few breaths of time, they turned into 5 balls of bright yellow light. The 5 balls of light merged into one, and a resonant dragon roar was heard. A pair of 5-colored wings sprouted from the ribs, and the shadow of a bright yellow winged dragon appeared. As expected, the 5 divine beasts had to merge into one in the end. All things returning to their origin was the right path for cultivators of the 5 elements. It seemed that his idea of modifying the lifebound magic tool was very correct. After the Yinglong circled around the Yuanying a few times, it turned into the Yinglong mark and engraved itself between the Yuanying's eyebrows. The Scarlet Phoenix Nirvana fire stayed in the Vermilion Bird vision and didn't show any abnormalities. The bright yellow Yinglong mark looked pretty good. Wang Daoyuan was also relieved. He had been worried that a black tortoise mark would appear between his eyebrows. In the future, it would be a bit awkward when he used the Yuanying to fight with others. After the Yinglong mark appeared between the eyebrows, the Yuanying opened his eyes. Perhaps because he had all 5 elements, the Yuanying was born with a balance of the 5 elements, and appeared to be more agile than Lei Yan's Yuanying. With a wave of his hand, the Yuanying summoned 5 5th-level lower-grade shields from the space within the Spirit Pearl. At this moment, a dark cloud appeared in the sky. The nearby spiritual chi also started to gather above the island in the center of the lake, and the tribulation cloud quickly expanded. There were many spirit veins in this secret realm, and the space was only so big so the spiritual chi couldn't spread everywhere. Thus, the spiritual chi density was extremely high. Even in places without spirit veins, the spiritual chi density had reached the 5th level lower grade. With sufficient spiritual chi, the tribulation cloud formed faster. In just 5 minutes, the tribulation cloud had expanded to a diameter of 500 kilometers. At this moment, the tribulation cloud was no longer expanding. With Wang Daoyuan as the center, the heavenly might descended and enveloped an area of 200 kilometers. Chapter 738. Mirror Lake was located at the eastern edge of the 7 Stars secret realm. It was only about 50,000 kilometers away from the center of the 7 Stars heavenly palace. The Yuanying cultivators could naturally feel the intense power of the heavenly tribulation. Several late-stage Yuanying cultivators were sitting cross-legged beside the tallest palace in the heavenly palace. Suddenly, a cultivator with a long beard opened his eyes. "Daoyu, there's quite a commotion in the east." An older cultivator was still resting with his eyes closed. "There's nothing strange about it. Every time the secret realm opens, there are cultivators who take the opportunity to break through to the Yuanying realm. Wasn't there a big commotion in the north before? It's most likely a genius who found a spirit item to help him form his nascent soul and found a place to form his nascent soul. By the time we get there, it'll be over. There's no need to care about it." The other Yuanying cultivators agreed and continued to meditate. The Yuanying cultivators outside of the heavenly palace could no longer hold back after seeing such a big commotion. The bigger the commotion caused by the Yuanying heavenly tribulation, the more bountiful the rewards would be. Even if they failed the tribulation, they could still pick up the wealth of a peak golden core cultivator. If they succeeded, they could even kill the cultivator before he woke up. The bountiful rewards of the heavens and earth would fall on them. Several Yuanying cultivators outside of the heavenly palace began to fly towards the tribulation clouds. Wang Daoyuan's Yuanying looked up at the tribulation clouds in the sky. Soon, a green ball with a diameter of 1 foot fell from the sky. He took out a low-grade Tier 5 shield to block the lightning tribulation. The ball fell and hit the shield. A huge crack appeared on the Tier 5 low-grade shield. The shield wasn't a very powerful magic tool. It couldn't compare to the purple gold jewel pagoda, which used to be a Tier 7 spirit tool. It was normal for a mere low-grade Tier 5 shield to not be able to withstand the lightning tribulation. However, more than 90% of the lightning tribulation's power was absorbed by the shield. The remaining power caused some damage to the Yuanying cultivators, but it wasn't unbearable. The green ball turned into a green mist that filled the sky and dispersed in all directions. These spiritual items were all treasures that could promote the growth of Yuanying. How could he let it go so easily? Yuanying opened her small mouth and spat out a wisp of life spirit fire. The moment the flames came into contact with the green mist, they began to burn fiercely. Soon, the green mist was completely engulfed by the flames. Yuanying opened her mouth and swallowed all the flames. After refining it for a while, the wood attribute spiritual power seed in his body completed its evolution. The current life spiritual fire had already become a rank 5 spiritual fire. Yuanying's entire body was emitting a green glow. The life force within had also become extremely rich. Wang Daoyuan used the Azure Dragon revitalization technique to heal Yuanying's injuries. Only 100 breaths of time had passed, and the green light had already been incinerated. There was a quarter of an hour between the two heavenly tribulations. There was plenty of time to heal. The green light enveloped Yuanying. 15 minutes later, her injuries were more or less healed. The second heavenly tribulation also came, and a red ball of spiritual energy fell from the sky. The power of the 5 elements heavenly tribulations was equal. If he could withstand the first one, the second one would not be a big deal. The rank 5 shield was smashed with a huge crack by the ball of spiritual energy. There was no longer any value in repairing it. Yuanying also suffered some minor injuries. All the spiritual power in the ball of spiritual energy was refined by the Scarlet Yang primordial fire and integrated into Yuanying. The Scarlet Yang primordial fire had also successfully evolved into an inferior rank 5 spiritual fire. After absorbing so much spiritual power, Yuanying's strength had also increased. Soon the remaining 3 heavenly tribulations also fell one by one. The results were the same. The 5 element spiritual fires had all been upgraded to inferior rank 5. Yuanying's strength was also high enough. The last heavenly tribulation caused little damage to Yuanying. After the 5 heavenly tribulations, there was only one divine ability tribulation left. At this moment he was already a true Yuanying cultivator. Any bit of spiritual power could condense the power of law. He did not have to rely on small divine abilities to use a small amount of the power of law like before. The tribulation cloud in the sky did not shrink significantly. Instead, it surged violently like a wave. After a quarter of an hour, a milky white ball of energy fell from the tribulation cloud. After the energy ball fell, it disappeared instantly. Wang Daoyuan felt a sense of oppression as if he had been thrown into water. He instantly understood that the divine ability tribulation had descended. The divine ability tribulation was the same as his own divine ability, but much more powerful. His small divine ability was a domain type, and now it should have become a divine ability. The heavenly tribulation divine ability was naturally also a domain type. This heavenly tribulation was a test, and at the same time, it was also teaching cultivators how to use divine abilities. Wang Daoyuan also activated his divine ability at the same time to resist this sense of oppression. Then he felt the life force in Yuanying gradually dissipating into the surrounding space. Although he had never experienced the loss of life force, this feeling was not unfamiliar. It was very similar to the Tsang Dragon Pearl's accompanying spell, Tsang Dragon Life Snatching Technique. Wang Daoyuan also controlled the spiritual power within the range of the divine ability and used the Tsang Dragon Life Snatching Technique to regain the lost life force. The plants on the island in the center of the lake also began to wither. Even the aquatic plants in the lake were not spared. Within a radius of 200 miles, all the spiritual plants had their life force extracted by Wang Daoyuan. Using the divine ability to cast spells and the range of the divine ability domain were all within the range of spells. However, his divine ability and spells were still far inferior to the heavenly tribulation. The heavenly tribulation divine ability and spells were completely integrated into one. If the divine ability domain was not broken, the spells would not be broken. Wang Daoyuan was only using the two together. He was still far from fusing them into one. He constantly used the life spirit fire to replenish the loss of life force. At the same time, he constantly imitated the heavenly tribulation, trying to integrate spells and divine ability. If he could strengthen his divine ability to this extent in the future. As long as the opponent entered the range of the divine ability domain, their life force and spiritual power would be constantly lost, turning into their own power to attack the opponent. Who could win against this kind of consumption? The loss of life force could not do anything to him. Soon he felt the loss of spiritual power. This feeling was a bit like using the Gui water death flame to cast the black tortoise purgatory to trap the opponent. Wang Daoyuan also continued to imitate the heavenly tribulation to increase his understanding of the divine ability. The heavenly tribulation cast all the spells that he usually used. Wang Daoyuan imitated them one by one. His control and application skills of the divine ability had greatly improved. However, the following heavenly tribulation was not so gentle. 5 spiritual fires appeared from 5 directions at the same time. They were very similar to Wang Daoyuan's 5-element spiritual fires, but with the addition of the power of the heavenly tribulation. All the spiritual power within a radius of 200 miles burned. Even the spiritual power in the Yuanying was rapidly lost, becoming fuel for the heavenly tribulation flames. The previous matches were all just for fun. Now they were getting serious. Wang Daoyuan also released the 5-element spiritual fires, constantly competing with the heavenly tribulation flames for spiritual power. Compared to the heavenly tribulation flames, his flames were still too weak. In addition, the heavenly tribulation flames were integrated with the divine ability domain. The 5 element spiritual fires were unable to resist and soon surrounded Wang Daoyuan. Yuanying constantly drew spiritual power from the spiritual pearl to support the spiritual fires. However, he was still defeated. All the spiritual fires were swallowed by the heavenly tribulation flames. He urged the Yinglong between his eyebrows with all his strength. This guy already had a large amount of the power of the heavenly tribulation. If he absorbed more, he should be able to withstand it. The Yinglong pattern between Yuanying's eyebrows, under the urging of Wang Daoyuan's divine sense, instantly turned into a Yinglong. This Yinglong was extremely solid and did not look like a phantom. As soon as Yinglong appeared, it desperately swallowed the heavenly tribulation flames as if it had encountered a delicacy. Wang Daoyuan also took the opportunity to control his spiritual fires to protect Yuanying. With the resources of the heavenly tribulation flames, Yinglong's aura became stronger and stronger, and its swallowing speed became faster and faster. The 5 element spiritual fires gradually turned the situation around, and the tribulation clouds in the sky rolled even more violently. A large amount of the power of the heavenly tribulation fell from the tribulation clouds. The heavenly tribulation flames shrank, turning into a 5-colored flame bead. Chapter 739. The fireball smashed towards Yuanying. Yuanying waved his hand, and 5 intrinsic dermic artifacts flew out of his dantian and transformed into the 5 elements Fiend Suppression Seal. In terms of offensive power, the Fiend Suppression Seal was inferior to a Tier 5 longsword. However, the Fiend Suppression Seal had both offensive and defensive capabilities, and its defensive capabilities were not weak. Yinglong also fused into the 5 elements Fiend Suppression Seal to resist the fireball. Then, countless silver streams of light circled around his body, eventually condensing into dozens of sword shadows. These sword shadows formed a large bell. This was the Fiend Suppression Sword Bell of the Beiyuan Sword Manual. The golden book he obtained later had more detailed records of this dermic art, and its power was even greater. At the same time, he also used the Black Tortoise Radiant Armor, covering Yuanying with a layer of armor. The fireball smashed over, and upon contact with the 5 elements Fiend Suppression Seal, it instantly exploded. Even with Yinglong's support, the Fiend Suppression Seal could not withstand it and was directly scattered. Yinglong also let out a wail and flew out of his intrinsic dermic artifact. The 5-colored flames that contained the intense power of the heavenly tribulation splashed everywhere. Wang Daoyuan's Fiend Suppression Sword Bell and Black Tortoise Radiant Armor were like pieces of paper in the aftershock, instantly shattering. The aftershock of the fireball's explosion directly knocked Wang Daoyuan out. The 5-colored flames carried the power of the heavenly tribulation and enveloped Yuanying. Yinglong was a rather special existence that was derived from the Purple Mansion phenomenon. The Purple Mansion phenomenon and the Divine Soul were bound together for good or ill. As long as the Divine Soul was not destroyed, Yinglong would not be destroyed. Now that Wang Daoyuan was no longer controlling it, it began to act according to its own instincts. Its instinct was to devour the power of the heavenly tribulation. Fortunately, the flames that exploded were not all burning on Yuanying's body. After more than 100 breaths, the flames on Yuanying's body were completely devoured by Yinglong. It then went to devour the flames that were burning on other parts of the body. Because of Yinglong's help, Yuanying still had a lot of life force left. After the final attack, the power of the heavenly tribulation was exhausted, and the tribulation clouds in the sky began to turn purplish gold. At this moment, a cultivator in a golden robe flew towards the place where Wang Daoyuan was undergoing his tribulation. He was still more than 3,000 miles away from the bright mirror lake, and his face lit up with joy. Now that the gift of heaven and earth had yet to fall, he still had a chance. The tribulation cloud's transformation speed was extremely fast. In less than half a cup of tea's time, it had completely turned into a purplish gold color. Then a purple gold ball of light descended from the sky. This ball of light was only half a foot in diameter, but the power it contained was extremely shocking. The ball of light landed on Wang Daoyuan's Yuanying, and the vitality in his Yuanying rapidly increased. 200 breaths later, the golden-robed Yuanying cultivator arrived at the periphery of Bright Mirror Lake. Seeing Wang Daoyuan, he was a little surprised. At the same time, he was also a little relieved. He had fought Wang Daoyuan before. When he was at the peak of the Golden Core realm, he was already very troublesome. Now that he had broken through to the Yuanying realm, he was probably stronger than him. He could still take him down before he woke up. But if he woke up, it would be too late. Without hesitation, he waved his hand and shot out a beam of golden light towards Wang Daoyuan. At this moment, a defensive light barrier suddenly appeared and blocked the golden light. This was the defensive formation set up by Qin Zhaoyi's clone. Although it was only of the 4th grade, it was enough to stop the Yuanying cultivator for a moment. The golden-robed cultivator took out a mirror and poured a large amount of spiritual power into it. The mirror emitted a dazzling golden light, and the defensive light barrier was penetrated. The remaining golden light continued to attack Wang Daoyuan's Yuanying. At this moment, a crow's cry could be heard. Red gold flames spewed out, burning the golden light. Liao Yang's clone and Shui Yan also tried to stop it. They used all their strength and finally blocked the golden light. The golden-robed cultivator revealed an excited expression. "I didn't expect there to be a golden crow. Looks like I've struck gold this time." After saying that, he turned into a beam of golden light and flew towards the island in the middle of the lake. At this moment, Wang Daoyuan had already woken up and his divine ability domain was activated. The Yuanying stretched out its small hand, and a prison formed by black flames directly trapped the golden-robed cultivator. He joked, "You're wrong. You've suffered a great loss this time." The golden-robed cultivator attacked the prison repeatedly, trying to escape. But the prison was too strong. He used all his strength but still couldn't break it. Wang Daoyuan couldn't completely fuse his spells and divine ability domain like the heavenly tribulation. But when the two worked together, it wasn't something an early-stage Yuanying cultivator without divine ability could break. Just as he was about to beg for mercy, 10 sword shadows stabbed him. After breaking through to the Yuanying realm, his understanding of the laws had improved greatly. The power of sword cultivation spells had also increased by leaps and bounds. The golden-robed cultivator took out a low-grade shield to block. But this shield was like a piece of paper under the sword shadows. A cold light flashed, and the shield turned into several pieces of scrap metal and fell to the ground. Along with it, the golden-robed cultivator's head also fell. A 2-inch-tall Yuanying drilled out of the body, trying to escape. Unfortunately, no matter how fast the Yuanying was, it had to escape from the black tortoise purgatory. The golden-robed cultivator's Yuanying head hit the prison wall and bounced back. Wang Daoyuan controlled the prison to quickly shrink until the golden-robed cultivator's Yuanying couldn't move. Then he took it into his hands. He drew out the 5-element spiritual fire and burned the Yuanying. Begging, screaming and cursing sounds came from the Yuanying. The spiritual fire essence was directly poured into the space of the spiritual pearl, treating it as fertilizer for the spiritual fields. At this moment, purple gold lotus flowers began to fall from the auspicious clouds. They were different from the purple gold petals of ordinary Yuanying cultivators. Wang Daoyuan also began to absorb these purple gold lotus flowers to increase the potential of the Yuanying. The flames left behind by the heavenly tribulation all dissipated. Yinglong also returned to the space between the Yuanying's eyebrows to absorb some of the gifts of heaven and earth. He also brought Dahe and Yun-Yi out of the spiritual pearl space. It was still unknown if the two of them could advance to rank 4. The gifts of heaven and earth could increase the potential of humans and cultivators. If they absorbed some, their chances of breaking through to rank 4 in the future might be higher. The red-feathered crow didn't need to be told. It flew to the island in the center of the lake and absorbed the gifts of heaven and earth. His clone had already been put into the spiritual pearl space. It was inevitable that the demons and fiendish cultivators would cause trouble if they openly appeared in human territory. The golden-robed cultivator's interspatial ring was also put in. The purple-gold auspicious clouds in the sky were still 200 miles in diameter. It seemed that the lotus rain would continue for a while. Under the nourishment of the gifts of heaven and earth, Wang Daoyuan's Yuanying also slowly recovered. Previously, it had been burned like charcoal by the heavenly tribulation spirit fire, but now it was slowly recovering. He carefully checked the Yuanying to see if there were any important parts missing. He had to admit that the Yuanying and the physical body were really similar. Although it was a little small, it didn't lack anything. After absorbing the gifts of heaven and earth for half an hour, the Yuanying was already full and couldn't absorb any more lotus flowers. At this moment, the Yuanying returned to his body and regained control. His physical body had absorbed a lot of the gifts of heaven and earth on its own, and a large amount of purple gold energy remained in his body. He began to circulate his cultivation technique and integrate the purple gold energy into his 5 internal organs to strengthen his physical body. The golden-robed cultivator's Yuanying had also been completely burned into nothingness. Another early-stage Yuanying cultivator came to the mirror lake. This person looked like a middle-aged man with a full beard. Although he wore a loose robe, it couldn't hide his sturdy body. He should be a body-tempering cultivator. When he saw the golden-robed cultivator's corpse on the shore, he angrily shouted, "Where did this thief come from? How dare he kill Taoist Master Golden Light of the Seven Stars Alliance? This bastard was also pretending to be stupid. I was transcending my tribulation here, and Taoist Master Golden Light died here. What else could have happened?" However, he didn't want to offend the Seven Stars Alliance. He explained, "I was breaking through my Yuanying here when he suddenly rushed out and tried to kill me. He deserved to die in my hands." The brawny man glanced at the purple-gold auspicious clouds in the sky and the spirit beast that was absorbing the gifts of heaven and earth. With a greedy expression he angrily shouted, "Even if the Yuanying cultivator of the Seven Stars Alliance was in the wrong, he should be punished by the deity transformation cultivators. You're a cultivator who just formed your nascent soul. What right do you have to punish him? Since you killed someone of the Seven Stars Alliance, you should pay with your life." Chapter 740. Wang Daoyuan cursed in his heart, "You talk about protecting the dignity of the Seven Stars Alliance, but in fact, you want to snatch the gift of heaven and earth and the three spirit beasts." However, his physical body had not yet advanced to the level of a Yuanying cultivator, so he did not dare to let this body-tempering cultivator get close to him. He continued to circulate his cultivation technique and absorbed a large amount of spiritual energy from the outside world. After refining it and strengthening his physical body, a spiritual energy vortex with a diameter of 10 miles appeared above the island in the center of the lake. Seeing that Wang Daoyuan was ignoring him, the body-tempering cultivator was also burning with anger. He took out a heavy sword that was almost 3 meters long. With his height of 3 meters, the heavy sword in his hand did not seem too exaggerated. He threw the heavy sword with force. The heavy sword carried the strength of a Yuanying body-tempering cultivator and a gust of wind as it slashed towards the island in the center of the lake. The body-tempering cultivator's strength was definitely strong among those of the same level. Wang Daoyuan naturally did not dare to be careless. He activated his divine ability again and held a low-grade Tier 5 longsword in his hand. Silver sword chi surrounded his body and finally gathered on the longsword. The silver demon-slaying sword was instantly formed. The heavy sword flew over and Wang Daoyuan swung the longsword in his hand. Boom! With a loud sound, Wang Daoyuan's demon-slaying sword dimmed, and the body-tempering cultivator's heavy sword also flew back. Waves of air spread out in all directions, and ripples appeared on the surface of the lake under the influence of the air waves. The body-tempering cultivator caught the heavy sword and was forced to take a few steps back from the impact. After dispersing the demon-slaying sword, Wang Daoyuan controlled the sword chi and condensed it into sword shadows. Soon, 36 sword shadows were condensed and attacked the body-tempering cultivator at an extremely fast speed. Most body-tempering cultivators were not known for their speed. They could not dodge the sword shadows and were quickly surrounded. Wang Daoyuan took the opportunity to use the sky-sealing sword prison. The 36 sword shadows released countless sword chi and surrounded the body-tempering cultivator. This fellow was not weak. The golden spiritual energy on his body surged and formed a protective chi barrier. The sword chi slashed on his body, but they were all blocked by the protective chi barrier. Then he suddenly swung the heavy sword in his hand. Kacha! More than 20 sword shadows were severed by this sword, and the heaven-sealing sword prison was directly broken. Wang Daoyuan controlled the remaining sword shadows and slashed at him. His protective aura was broken, and the remaining sword shadows left several deep wounds on his body, so deep that his bones could be seen. Wang Daoyuan sighed in his heart. This heavenly dipper sword formation was still not perfect enough. If the sword shadows weren't strong enough, it would be easy for him to be forced to execute the sky-sealing sword prison. The body-tempering cultivator's face was gloomy. He originally wanted to take advantage of the situation, but he didn't expect that it would be a tough nut to crack. He had just broken through the Yuanying realm and was already stronger than him. If this continued, he would lose his life here. He was also extremely decisive. He turned around and flew away from this place. At this moment, the gift of heaven and earth had not yet ended, so Wang Daoyuan did not have the time to chase after him. He took out a jar of 100-fruit wine and drank it in one gulp. He circulated the true dragon body tempering art to strengthen his physical body. The battle between Wang Daoyuan and the body tempering cultivator was too loud, and the cultivators who came to join in the fun naturally noticed it. The gift of heaven and earth had already lasted for about 15 minutes, and under normal circumstances there was not much left. The person who could chase away a body-tempering cultivator's yuanying was naturally not weak. If they came to cause trouble again, they would not be able to reap much benefits and might even lose their lives. Those who could cultivate to the yuanying realm were not fools, who would risk their lives for such a small profit. With no one disturbing him, Wang Daoyuan was also happy with the peace and quiet. There was a sea of spiritual energy and the gift of heaven and earth here. There was also a faint dragon chi in the spirit spring. This was the most suitable place to cultivate the true dragon body tempering art. In just 15 minutes, his physical body was already full and could not absorb any more spiritual energy. He punched the rock on the ground. With his fist as the center, cracks spread in all directions like a spider web. The remaining power of the heavenly tribulation only caused some cracks to appear on the rocks here, but his punch could actually cause a large piece of rock to collapse. With just the strength of his physical body, it should not be a problem to kill an ordinary early-stage yuanying cultivator. Unfortunately, there were no yuanying cultivators coming to die now. He had a body full of power, but there was nowhere to use it. The auspicious clouds in the sky had not dissipated, and there were still about 100 kilometers in diameter. From the looks of it, the gift of heaven and earth would continue for a while. Wang Daoyuan's physical body and yuanying were already full. Only the Yinglong mark between yuanying's eyebrows was like a bottomless pit, constantly devouring the purple gold energy. He continued to absorb the gift of heaven and earth and infused it into the Yinglong mark. Most of his techniques were related to the 5 elements divine beast. As the Yinglong mark grew, his strength would also improve. There were simply too many gifts of heaven and earth. The Yinglong mark's absorption speed could not keep up. Wang Daoyuan did not want to take advantage of this mystic realm for nothing, so he directly infused the gift of heaven and earth into the space of the spirit pearl. The gift of heaven and earth lasted for another hour. The purple gold auspicious clouds became extremely thin and then slowly dissipated. The entire space of the spirit pearl was enshrouded in a layer of purple gold fog. The spirit meridians had already reached the limit of superior grade stage 4. Now that there was a huge amount of gifts of heaven and earth, it was naturally not a problem for them to upgrade. The 5 spirit meridians had already reached inferior grade stage 5. The spirit energy they produced contained the power of laws. The wood attribute and water attribute spirit meridians originally contained some dragon chi. After the spirit meridians upgraded, the dragon chi became even denser. Although it was not as good as the jade spring peak, it was about the same as the spirit spring in front of him. It was more than enough to cultivate the true dragon body tempering technique. In the whole of Beiyuan Xiuxian, he already had 5 stage 5 spirit meridians that could only be found by chance. The nascent formation fruit, core fragmentation grass, and rejuvenation grass that he had obtained previously had also grown. It was not impossible for him to return to Beiyuan Xiuxian now. However, after drifting on the sea for decades, it was not easy for him to reach the Sea of 7 Stars. He felt that it would be a loss for him to return like this. The area of the spirit field in the space had also increased. Now it had reached 100 mu. The flow of time had also increased to about 65 times. It had just produced stage 5 spirit energy, and the spirit plants in the space had not had time to upgrade yet. However, the spirit fire in the space made Wang Daoyuan feel a little surprised. Logically speaking, the spirit fire's upgrade speed should be much faster than the spirit meridians. After all, it was composed of pure spirit energy. As long as it could absorb enough spirit energy, it would be able to upgrade very quickly. However, except for the life spirit fire that grew on the spirit peach tree that had advanced to inferior grade stage 5, the other spirit fires were still at superior grade stage 4. The red sun true fire was still okay. Its spirit energy fluctuations showed some signs of increasing. It seemed that it would be able to upgrade very soon. The other 3 spirit fires showed no signs of upgrading at all. Wang Daoyuan carefully examined the 5 spirit fires to see where the problem was. At the Yuanying realm, the soul had undergone a huge change again. The perception ability of the divine sense had increased by a large level. After careful examination, he really found some differences. In addition to spirit energy, there was also a special kind of energy in the fire seeds of these spirit fires. Wang Daoyuan had seen many special kinds of energy. The power of heavenly tribulation, the gift of heaven and earth, purple chi, the power of the stars, and the large amount of grayish-purple energy in the spirit bead. However, the special energy in the spirit fires was obviously different from those. The amount of this special energy was different in these 5 spirit fires. The life spirit fire had the most, followed by the red sun true fire. The other 3 spirit fires were even less. He examined the spirit energy seed in the Yuanying again and found that there was also a special energy in it. It was much more than in the space spirit fire. Wang Daoyuan guessed that this special energy should be related to the formation of the spirit fires. After all, the spirit fires in the space were cultivated by pseudo-spirit fires. It was normal for there to be less of this special energy. Perhaps it was because there was too little of this energy that limited the growth of the spirit fires. There was a clear difference in the amount of special energy in the 5 spirit fires in the space of the spirit bead. This was also very easy to understand. The life spirit fire originally came from the spirit peach tree. It had been growing on the spirit peach tree and received the nourishment of the spirit peach tree. Naturally, it could continue to obtain this special energy. The red sun true fire came from the red feather crow, which happened to be in the space. The red sun true fire could more or less obtain a little special energy from the red feather crow. The other 3 spirit fires had nowhere to replenish it, so they had the least. Chapter 741. Wang Daoyuan was a little disappointed that the seed fire's growth was limited. On second thought, it was normal for there to be a limit. If he could infinitely separate the pseudo-spiritual fire and cultivate it into spiritual fire, wouldn't the entire cultivation world be flooded with spiritual fire? If he separated the pseudo-spiritual fire from the spiritual fire, he would also lose a part of the fire seed. There was also a special energy that would damage the spiritual fire. It seemed that he could not casually divide the pseudo-spiritual fire in the future. Otherwise, it would affect the spiritual fire's growth limit. As for the spiritual fire in the spiritual pearl, he still had to find a way to make up for the special energy. Otherwise, if the spiritual fire did not evolve in the future, it might affect the growth of the spiritual pearl space. After the gift of heaven and earth ended, he put the red-feathered crow Dahe and Yunyi into the spiritual pearl space. Just as he was about to leave, a mid-stage Yuanying cultivator appeared by the lake. He cupped his hands at Wang Daoyuan and said, "Daoyu caused such a big commotion when you broke through to the Yuanying realm. The gift of heaven and earth lasted for 2 hours. You can easily kill Yuanying cultivators when you just formed your nascent soul. You are also a talented person. I would like to invite Daoyu to join the Blood Shark. I am Huang He and I can still say a few words in the Blood Shark. As long as Daoyu can join, all kinds of Yuanying cultivation techniques, the guidance of veteran Yuanying cultivators, and the resources needed by Yuanying cultivators will all be available. With Daoyu's means, if he can join the Blood Shark, he will definitely become a branch leader. If his cultivation improves greatly in the future, it won't be a problem for him to enter the headquarters and receive guidance from a soul formation senior." Blood Shark was trying to recruit people, but it was normal. Blood Shark was hostile to the 7 Stars Alliance and did not occupy a relatively large island. In terms of resources, the many small islands might not be inferior to the large islands. However, the large islands had a great advantage, and that was that they could accommodate more mortals. Cultivators could live with a spirit vein, but mortals needed a lot of land to grow food. On a small island, this could not be satisfied at all. Therefore, the number of mortals controlled by Blood Shark was far less than that of the 7 Stars Alliance. Mortals were the foundation of immortal cultivators. Only when there were enough mortals could more immortal cultivators be nurtured. Blood Shark could never be compared to the 7 Stars Alliance in terms of the number of cultivators. If he wanted to make up for the lack of cultivators, he could only rope and rogue cultivators. Most Golden Core cultivators would not be spared, let alone a talented Yuanying cultivator like Wang Daoyuan. After arriving at Qixing Si Xiuxing community, Wang Daoyuan wanted to obtain the complete doppelganger soul nurturing technique. However, joining Blood Shark was probably out of the question. The doppelganger soul nurturing technique was the core legacy of the Imperial Regency. How could he let an unaffiliated cultivator learn it so easily? If he couldn't get what he wanted, he would be controlled by the Blood Shark. Only someone who had nothing better to do would dare to do such a thing. Wang Daoyuan cupped his hands and said, "I'm afraid I'll have to disappoint Daoyu. I don't like restrictions, so I've never joined any forces. Blood Shark is also a big force, so there must be many rules in all aspects. I can't stand this. No matter how many resources there are, I'm not willing to be controlled." Hearing this, Huang He's expression did not look too good. If he could rope in a Yuanying cultivator with a bright future, he could also get a lot of rewards. He laughed and said, "Daoyu should think carefully. Rogue cultivators in the Sea of 7 Stars don't have good lives. The resources that Yuanying cultivators need are divided between Blood Shark and the 7 Stars Alliance. Moreover, they are not sold to the outside world." He looked at the corpse on the ground and said, You killed Reverend Golden Light of the Seven Stars Alliance and chased away Reverend Iron Sword of the Tianshu sect. After you leave, the Seven Stars Alliance will definitely put you on the wanted list. If you don't join the Blood Shark, I'm afraid Dao Yu won't have a place in the Sea of Seven Stars. Wang Daoyuan laughed and said, "It's fine. I'll just go to the outer sea and kill 5th-rank demonic beast. If I can't stay in the Sea of Seven Stars, I'll go to the Myriad Devil Islands." The Seven Stars Alliance's wanted list can't be sent to the Myriad Devil Islands, right? You would rather go to the Myriad Devil Islands than join the Blood Shark. This was a dead end. Huang He stopped trying to persuade him and said, "Then I wish Dao Yu a bright future. If you ever think it through, you can still turn back. Our Blood Shark's door is always open to Dao Yu." After saying this, he flew away from Jingming Lake. Jingming Lake had already attracted the attention of many parties. If he continued to stay here, he would be moving under the noses of others. Just as Wang Daoyuan was about to leave, a mid-stage Yuanian cultivator wearing an ice-blue robe walked to Jingming Lake. He smiled at the island in the middle of the lake and said, "Dao Yu, I'm Wen Shen Tong, a member of the Wen clan on Mystic Island. With Dao Yu's talent, it's a waste of his talent to be a rogue cultivator. Blood Shark is also petty. They only offered the position of a branch leader to Dao Yu when they wanted to recruit him. If he's willing to come to Mystic Island, he can easily become a guest elder." The women of the One clan are famous for their beauty. As long as Dao Yu is willing to marry into our family, it won't be a problem for him to become an elder. Wang Daoyuan was speechless. The Seven Stars Alliance and Blood Shark were all mixed up. There were rich and poor people. It was reasonable for Yuanian cultivators with weaker families to wander outside looking for opportunities. The One clan was an independent force. This person's surname was Wen and he wasn't a cultivator from a subsidiary force. Even in a spirit-severing realm force, Yuanian cultivators were the main force and their status wasn't low. Why would a mid-level cultivator from such a large force wander outside? The One clan was also a large force. Wang Daoyuan couldn't easily offend them. He cupped his hands and said, "When Dao Yu overpraises me, my talent is average. Blood Shark is already thinking highly of me by giving me the position of a branch leader. However, I've never joined any force since I started cultivating. I'm used to being a wild crane and don't like restrictions. I appreciate Wen Daoyu's good intentions." This Wen Shen Tong was easy to talk to. He didn't force Wang Daoyuan to accept. He only smiled and said, "Dao Yu naturally has your difficulties. I won't force you. If you encounter any difficulties, you don't have to go to Myriad Demon Island. Come to Mystic Ice Island. My Wen clan will treat you like an important guest." After he finished speaking, he left the place. Wang Daoyuan understood the meaning of these two forces. The Seven Stars Alliance was the dominant force. Now that there was a rogue cultivator with a bright future, the other forces naturally wanted to rope him in. Even if they couldn't get him, they would sell him in advance so that he wouldn't join the Seven Stars Alliance. After sending the two away, Wang Daoyuan put on the black demon robe and used the concealment devil art to leave. Including today, he had only been in the Seven Stars Secret Realm for 12 days. There were 18 days before the Seven Stars Secret Realm closed. He didn't need to rush to the Seven Stars Heavenly Palace. Otherwise, if he caused trouble, he would be surrounded by the late Yuanian cultivators sent by the large forces. The cultivators sent out to be Dao protectors were definitely not weak. With Wang Daoyuan's ability, he didn't have the confidence to face several late Yuanian cultivators. When the Seven Stars Heavenly Palace closed, all the cultivators would be forcefully teleported out. The location of the teleportation was uncertain. It was within 300,000 miles of hidden Yuan Island. In the last few days he would enter the Seven Stars Heavenly Palace. With the spiritual pearl space he could obtain some spirit herb sprouts. The Seven Stars Heavenly Palace was the common herb garden of the large forces. They directed the harvesting of mature spirit herbs. There wasn't much difference whether he went early or late. Even if he was discovered by the Yuanian cultivators, he could hide for a few days and wait for the secret realm to close before being teleported outside. After leaving Mirror Lake, he headed north. More than 20,000 miles north, there was a mountain range called Qingmeng Mountain. There was a level 5 high-grade wood spirit vein on the mountain. The nearby vegetation was lush and there were many records of level 5 spirit herbs. When a cultivator reached the Yuanian realm, every increase in their cultivation required a huge amount of spirit power and quintessential essence. Even cultivators with heavenly spirit roots couldn't cultivate too quickly. It would take at least 100 or 200 years to cultivate from the early Yuanian stage to the middle Yuanian stage. Wang Daoyuan had a spirit power seed, so his cultivation speed was faster than most heavenly spirit roots. However, if he wanted to cultivate to the middle Yuanying stage, he would need dozens or even hundreds of years. Therefore, pills to assist in cultivation were indispensable. The most common pill used by Yuanying cultivators was the nascent cultivating pill. A single nascent cultivating pill could save an ordinary cultivator several years of hard work. There was also the 9 Deaths Resurrection pill, which could only be used by cultivators at the Yuanying stage and above. The rejuvenation grass he obtained previously was one of the main ingredients of the 9 Deaths Resurrection pill. Chapter 742. Wang Daoyuan flew all the way to the north, and his doppelganger in the space was not idle either. Previously, he had killed a peak golden core cultivator and Reverend Golden Light. Their universe rings were kept in the space of the Spirit Pearl. In the ring of the peak golden core cultivator, he found a token of the Divine Pill Sect. He should be a disciple of the Divine Pill Sect of the Seven Stars Alliance. There were also some spiritual herbs in the universe ring. Among them, there were 3 stalks of core fragmentation grass, 2 stalks of rejuvenation grass, and a spirit condensation fruit. The spirit condensation fruit was an auxiliary ingredient of the nascent cultivating pill. The fruit was already ripe and there was a seed in it. It could be planted in the space of the spirit pearl. The other elixirs, dharma artifacts and the like were all of the 4th grade. Wang Daoyuan had already broken through to the Yuanying realm. These things were of no use to him, so he threw them in the hut. There were still some good things in Reverend Golden Light's universe ring. The mirror that could emit golden light was not bad, but it was a natal dharma artifact. After the death of its owner, its power would be greatly reduced. It was also an unorthodox dharma artifact. There was no need to refine it into a legendary dharma artifact. However, it was still a 5th grade dharma artifact and its material was not bad. He could keep it and use it as a dressing mirror for Zhou Wan in the future. Reverend Golden Light had robbed many golden core cultivators, and there were still a few 4th grade dharma artifacts in the universe ring. When Wang Daoyuan encountered him, the flying boat was broken. The core of the flying boat and the spiritual power conversion device were also kept by him. If he sold this item, he could earn nearly 10 million spirit stones. Now that he had taken it back, his doppelganger could refine a new flying boat. Could save a lot of effort. He only needed to refine the outer shell. There were no other 5th grade dharma artifacts in the universe ring. If there were, he would not have robbed golden core cultivators. There were also some 5th grade elixirs, all of which were auxiliary ingredients of the nascent cultivating pill. The most valuable item was a 6th grade refining material, dazzling sun gold. It was a refining material produced by the Golden Sun Mountain. It was a metal material, but it contained an extremely rich yang qi. When refining a dharma artifact, it could be added, giving the dharma artifact a rich yang qi. It was extremely lethal to evil and demonic cultivators. In addition, there was also a jade pill bottle with 3 nascent cultivating pills inside. Wang Daoyuan could not use it for the time being. The 5 spirits immortal art did not have a cultivation technique for the Yuanying period, so he could not increase his cultivation level. Once he was done with the 7-star mystic realm, he would need to find a secluded place. Combining the techniques he had obtained before, he deduced the Yuanying technique of the 5 spirits immortal transformation technique. Without 8 to 10 years of time, this matter wouldn't be able to cause much of a stir. Right now he had to do his best to search for some tier 5 spirit herbs. The more he gathered, the fewer things he would need to gather to enter the 7 stars heavenly palace. Thus, they wouldn't need to take too many risks to reduce the risk of being discovered. After reaching the Yuanying stage, the amount of spiritual energy in one's body would greatly increase. Flying over 20,000 miles in one go was not a big deal. In merely 3 hours they arrived at Qingmeng Mountain. This mountain range was not small. It was more than 6,000 miles long from east to west, and more than 2,000 miles wide from north to south. Unfortunately, Wang Daoyuan had delayed for more than 10 days in order to break through to the Yuanying stage. Those golden core cultivators did not dare to enter the 7 stars heavenly palace, nor did they dare to compete with the Yuanying cultivators on the tier 6 spirit vein. They could only set their eyes on the tier 5 spirit vein. There were even more cultivators near a wood spirit vein like Qingmeng Mountain, which was lush with vegetation and many spirit herbs. These people were really poor. He searched for a long time, but there was not a single tier 4 spirit herb left on the entire Qingmeng Mountain. Helpless, he could only leave Qingmeng Mountain and search elsewhere. Then he found another rank 6 spirit vein and plundered it clean. There was no point in searching for other spirit veins. He simply found a Tier 5 spirit vein at the edge of the area and repaired his natal Dharma artifact. Previously, when he was transcending the tribulation, the demon vanquishing seal was scattered by the last strike of the tribulation. Every Dharma artifact suffered different degrees of damage. If he did not repair it, his combat power would be affected. As for upgrading them to Tier 5, it was not possible in a short period of time. Even if the spirit energy contained in the Dharma artifact reached the level of Tier 5, the tool pattern was still at Tier 4. Perfected Demon Vanquishing Master was only a peak Golden Core cultivator in his later years. In the refinement method of the 5 Elements Demon Vanquishing Seal, there was only a Tier 4 tool pattern. If he wanted to upgrade his natal Dharma artifact to Tier 5, he would have to deduce the tool pattern himself. Breaking through to the Yuanying stage left a lot to do. He could not continue to improve his cultivation, and his physical body and Yuanying had reached a saturated state. The only thing he could do now was to repair the original tool pattern, which could more or less increase his combat power. Over the years, his natal Dharma artifact had absorbed a large amount of spirit energy and was extremely strong. Although the heavenly tribulation had scattered the 5 Elements Demon Vanquishing Seal, it did not cause too much damage. He released his clone to stand guard outside while Yuanying entered the space of the Spirit Pearl to repair the Dharma artifacts. Yuanying cultivators' souls, spirit energy, and blood were fused as one and could leave their bodies for a longer period of time. With the help of the 60 times faster flow of time in the space of the Spirit Pearl, the speed of deduction of cultivation techniques, alchemy, and weapon refinement would be greatly increased. It was a pity that Yuanying could not be cultivated outside the body. Otherwise, if Yuanying cultivated in the space of the Spirit Pearl, he would be able to cultivate to the peak of Yuanying within 10 years. There were still more than 10 days before the mystic realm closed. If he left a few days to explore the 7 Stars Heavenly Palace, he would still have 10 days left. That would be more than 600 days in the space of the Spirit Pearl. Yuanying was in the thatched hut in the space of the Spirit Pearl, repairing the tool patterns on the 5 Dharma artifacts. 10 days passed quickly and the damaged Dharma artifacts were all repaired. There were less than 5 days before the mystic realm closed. It was time to explore the 7 Stars Heavenly Palace. After taking back the core of the flying boat and the spirit energy conversion device from perfected Golden Light, his clones refined a Tier 4 medium-grade flying boat. Wang Daoyuan rode the flying boat and flew towards the 7 Stars Heavenly Palace. When he was about 10,000 miles east of the palace, he kept the flying boat, hid his body and slowly approached the palace. 2 hours later he arrived near the 7 Stars Heavenly Palace. The 7 Stars Heavenly Palace was about 200 square miles. It was surrounded by a wall that was more than 30 meters high. There was a gate on all 4 sides of the palace. According to the Beast Skin book given by Uncle Zhong, the palace was protected by an array formation. Except for the first few times, every time the mystic realm opened, the array formation of the entire palace would be broken. The next time the mystic realm opened, the array formation would automatically repair itself. There was another important task for the late Yuanying cultivators sent in by the big sects, which was to break the array formation. Now the defensive array of the palace had already been broken. However, there seemed to be a forbidden space array inside that prevented people from flying over. At every gate of the palace, there were Yuanying cultivators sent by the big sects to guard it. Wang Daoyuan did not want to provoke them. Even if he did not go through the gate, he could still go through the palace walls. The forbidden space array not only made all flying spells ineffective, it also had the effect of increasing gravity. Normal cultivators would not be able to go up the walls within the range of the forbidden space array. Even if they went up, they would cause quite a commotion and would easily alert the cultivators on guard duty. Wang Daoyuan was a body-tempering cultivator who had reached the Yuanying realm. How could he be stopped by a palace wall? He came to a place about 30 kilometers south of the east gate and jumped onto the palace wall. Looking up from the palace wall, he saw that the array formation inside the palace had not been completely broken. There was a small group of palaces in the middle that was protected by a defensive light shield. The defensive light shield was extremely strong and far exceeded the strength of the Yuanying cultivators. This should be the school of the Emperor Star. It was the only place in the 7 Stars Heavenly Palace that had not been explored. The soul formation cultivators sent by the big sects could not break through the school of the Emperor Star's defensive array. Now, the cultivators of the big sects did not see the school of the Emperor Star and pretended that it did not exist. Many of the surrounding buildings also had intact formations. They were probably empty buildings that the big sects had taken away. There was no longer any value in continuing to explore. The beast skin book that Uncle Zhong had given him did not describe the situation inside the palace in detail. After entering the palace, there was nothing to refer to. After going down the palace wall, Wang Daoyuan walked straight to the places without the protection of the array formation. The only valuable things in the heavenly palace were the spiritual fields. The places without the protection of the array formation had probably been broken by the cultivators of the big sections. These places were very likely to have spirit fields. The surrounding palaces were magnificent. They did not look like places where cultivators lived. Instead, they looked more like the imperial palaces of the mortal world. After passing through a few small palaces protected by arrays, a small river appeared in front of him. The river water was so clear that he could see the bottom. It contained extremely rich spiritual power that had surpassed level 5. The river water was still flowing. After passing through a winding river, it finally flowed to the north of the palaces. Previously, he had seen a small lake with a diameter of about 5 kilometers in the north of the palaces. There were many spirit plants planted around the lake. It was a good opportunity to explore. Following the river, he walked downstream and soon arrived at the lakeside. At the place where the river flowed into the lake, there was a stone tablet with the words Xuanwu Lake written in ancient characters. The shape of the lake was roughly circular. In the center of the lake was a small island with a diameter of about 2,000 feet. This island looked like a huge turtle. On the turtle's back was a small piece of spirit field. There were many level 5 high-grade spirit plants planted in this spirit field. 2 days ago, there was a late-stage Yuanian cultivator meditating next to it. If he wanted to pick spirit plants right under his nose, he would definitely be discovered. With his current strength, he was not a match for a late-stage Yuanian cultivator. He could only search for the spirit plants he needed in the spirit field by the lake. Even though the lake was only about 5 kilometers away from the center, he still had to be careful. Wang Daoyuan did not dare to release his divine sense. He only used his eyes to identify the spirit plants. After spending half a day, he finally walked around the small lake. There was a rich variety of spirit plants in these spirit fields. They were all level 5 spirit plants. He wanted nothing more than to put all of these spirit plants into the space of the spirit pearl. However, he did not dare to go too far in front of a late-stage Yuanian cultivator. He did not dare to touch many of the spirit plants whose uses he did not know. He only tried his best to find the raw materials for the 9 Death Soul Return Pill and the Nascent Cultivating Pill. However, his harvest was not small. He had collected most of the spirit plants for the 9 Death Soul Return Pill and the Nascent Cultivating Pill. The 2 pills each lacked a main ingredient. The 9 Death Soul Return Pill still lacked the Soul Return Grass and the Nascent Cultivating Pill still lacked the Jade Dew Flower. There was no such thing in the spirit field by the lake. Wang Daoyuan did not stay here any longer. He followed the river upstream and went to other palaces that might have spirit fields to look for the whereabouts of the pills. Half a day later, he arrived at the side of a courtyard. In the north of the courtyard, there was a palace-like building that was not very tall. On the plaque on the door of the hall, there were 3 big words, Shinnong Pavilion. Voices came from the palace. A young cultivator asked, "Senior Marshal Brother Zhang, this divine farmer pavilion was the place where the inheritance of the spirit plant farmer was placed. Legend has it that the first group of cultivators who entered this place found a rank 7 spirit plant here. There is also the inheritance of a rank 7 spirit plant farmer in the palace. I wonder whose hands these things fell into." Then a middle-aged man's voice came out, "There is indeed such a thing. In the past, more than 10 deity transformation cultivators of the Qixing Si Xiuxian community broke the defensive formation of the heavenly palace. After that, they all dispersed. At that time, the first person to come to this divine farmer pavilion was the sect master of the imperial regency. He broke the formation of the divine farmer pavilion. At that time, there was a soul cultivation wood that had grown for an unknown number of years in the courtyard. This soul cultivation wood could not only heal the damage to the soul of cultivators, but also gradually strengthen the cultivation of the divine sense when wearing magic tools refined from the soul cultivation wood. At that time, the Imperial Regency was only a second-rate force in the Qixing Si Xiuxian community. Moreover, it was the kind that was not very eye-catching. After obtaining this soul cultivation wood, it only took 2,000 years to grow into a first-rate force. Hearing this, Wang Daoyuan was also very interested. He had naturally heard of the famous soul cultivation wood. Its effect was just as the middle-aged cultivator said. The Imperial Regency had obtained the soul cultivation wood in the 1,000 Corpse Spiritual Master's Sea observation record. Although his status was low at that time, He was still a disciple of the imperial regency. He still knew a little about the glorious history of his sect. The earliest core inheritance of the imperial regency was beast taming. In order to make spirit beasts submit, the requirements for the power of the divine sense were extremely high. After the imperial regency obtained the soul cultivation wood, the divine sense of the disciples naturally improved by leaps and bounds. The stronger the divine sense, the stronger the spirit beast that could be controlled. The imperial regency rose because of this. Later they obtained the soul-devouring soul cultivation technique and improved the doppelganger soul cultivation technique. Together with the soul cultivation wood, the imperial regency dominated the Qixing-Si Xiuxing community for tens of thousands of years. After the major forces of the Seven Stars Alliance destroyed the imperial regency, they did not find any trace of the soul cultivation wood. Now there were different opinions as to where the soul cultivation wood was. Some said that some of the cultivators who participated in the siege took the soul cultivation wood for themselves. Some said that the cultivators of the imperial regency had already moved the soul cultivation wood to the secret realm. The lower part of the soul cultivation wood became an unsolved case. Wang Daoyuan carefully walked into the courtyard and observed the spiritual field in the courtyard. This was indeed the Shenong Pavilion. There were many types of spiritual herbs. The resurrection grass and dew flower that he was looking for were all in the spiritual field. The two cultivators in the hall were both in the early stage of the Yuanying realm. Wang Daoyuan was still confident that he could hide it from them, so he became bolder. He walked to the side of the spiritual field, picked a few resurrection grass and dew flowers, and kept them in the space of the spiritual pearl. With these two spiritual herbs, the trip to the Seven Stars Heavenly Palace could be considered complete. There were other level 5 spiritual herbs in the spiritual field, so naturally he could not let them go. At this moment, a loud shout suddenly came from the house. The spiritual field of the Shenong Pavilion is guarded by the Divine Pill sect. Which sect's Daoyu is so unruly to come here and steal spiritual herbs? Hearing this, Wang Daoyuan was a little shocked. He had been hiding and did not make any big movements. How could he be discovered? The young man asked, "Senior Marshal Brother, there is no one outside. Did you feel wrong?" The middle-aged man replied, "My divine sense is related to space. Just now, I clearly felt that there were spatial fluctuations in the courtyard. Someone must have stolen the spiritual herbs and kept them in the space treasure." Chapter 743. Needless to say, Yuanying cultivators had good memory. They soon found that a few resurrection grasses and jade dew flowers were missing. The young cultivator said, "Senior Marshal Brother's magical power is really powerful. Someone did steal the spiritual herbs. Daoyu in the courtyard, you've been discovered. You'd better show yourself quickly. It's not a big deal. Daoyu didn't need to pick these unripe spiritual herbs. Just leave them behind. If you make a big deal out of it, it will affect the relationship between the two sides." Wang Daoyuan naturally didn't dare to show himself. He didn't care about the two shouting and quietly left the Shenong Pavilion. Although their whereabouts were discovered, the two thought that it was done by cultivators from other big powers. They wanted to escape from the Heavenly Palace now and find a place to hide. Maybe they could escape this disaster. The two shouted a few times but didn't see anyone show up. They were a bit annoyed. The young cultivator said, "Senior Marshal Brother, this person is very good at hiding. It seems that he doesn't want to show himself. Let's report to Marshal Uncle. If the spiritual herbs are found missing, the two of us will be punished." The middle-aged cultivator nodded and immediately sent a message to the Dao Protector to report the situation. At this time, the late Yuanying cultivator guarding the island in the center of Shuangwu Lake opened his eyes. He said to himself, "Which Powers Jr. is so ignorant to steal the spiritual herbs of our Divine Pill sect?" Then he used his divine sense to scan the spiritual fields on the shore. He was immediately furious. This thief is so arrogant. He dared to steal the spiritual herbs under my nose. He's obviously looking down on me. This is intolerable. We must investigate this thoroughly and catch him. Then he transmitted his voice to the other cultivators. After Wang Daoyuan left the Shenong Pavilion, he fled toward the eastern palace wall. By the time he reached the palace walls, several strands of divine sense swept towards him. However, with black magic robe, he didn't expose his whereabouts. There was also a defensive formation on the wall. This formation wasn't difficult to break, but it could still block him for a few breaths. For the Yuanying cultivators, this was enough time to attack many times. In just a short while, the number of people on the city wall had increased by several times. With his current strength, It was unrealistic for him to escape from several Yuanian cultivators at the same time. If the late-stage Yuanian cultivators from the Heavenly Palace were to catch up to them, they would have no choice but to surrender. Once caught, it would be a fate worse than death. Moreover, these cultivators were not sure who had stolen the spirit plants. There were cultivators from the Seven Stars Alliance, Blood Shark, and Mystic Ice Island in the Heaven Palace. He had fallen into the hands of the Divine Pill sect, and the first person to be suspicious of the Seven Stars Alliance was none other than the Blood Shark. There would definitely be a quarrel between the two sides. Both sides had a blood feud. If things got out of hand, they might even end up fighting. That would be the best time to slip away. There were only 3 days left before the secret realm closed. First, he had to find a place to hide. After 3 days, he would be randomly teleported out. As long as he was not too unlucky, he would be directly teleported into the midst of the Seven Stars Alliance. After making up his mind, Wang Daoyuan used the concealment devil art to suppress his aura. He came to a secluded place and sat down cross-legged. There were formations under the ground of the Seven Stars Heavenly Palace, so he could not escape through the earth. At this time, several late-stage Yuanian cultivators gathered at the Shinong Pavilion. They checked the spirit fields. The traces of Wang Daoyuan picking the spirit plants were still clearly visible. An extremely muscular cultivator said, "Indeed, there are traces of freshly picked spirit plants." An old cultivator said, "It's not just the Shinong Pavilion. There are also many spirit plants around the Xuanwu Lake that I'm guarding. Which fellow Taoist did my Divine Pill sect offend? Who Taoist dares to humiliate me like this?" A cultivator wearing a white robe with a golden long sword embroidered on it said, "The various factions have already divided their territories. The mature spirit plants are almost all picked. What's the use of picking these immature spirit plants? Could it be that they have a habit of stealing and are itching to steal?" When he said steal, he purposely emphasized his tone and looked at the other cultivators. Those cultivators were Blood Shark's people. What he meant was that Blood Shark's people stole the spirit plants and provoked the Divine Pill sect. This person was a cultivator from the Alioth Sword sect. It was the Alioth Sword sect that led the destruction of the Imperial Regency. The upper echelons of Blood Shark were all cultivators of the Imperial Regency. They already had a blood feud with the Seven Stars Alliance. How could they be willing to accept this? An old cultivator laughed. "That's true. Some people have a habit of stealing and are itching to steal. A few thousand years ago, they stole our Imperial Regency's territory. Maybe it's because the things they stole were big enough that they didn't itch after thousands of years. Now their old habits are acting up again. They want to steal something again. Looks like they have their eyes on the Seven Stars Heavenly Palace. After taking down the Seven Stars Heavenly Palace, the next step is to take the entire Seven Stars Mystery Realm for themselves." Sword cultivators were mostly straightforward. How could they withstand this provocation? The Alioth Sword sect cultivator was so angry that his face turned red. *T. Back then, the Imperial Regency bullied the cultivators of the Sea of Seven Stars. They even used sorcery to control other cultivators and turn them into puppets, causing the heavens to be angry. My Alioth Sword sect followed the will of the people and carried out justice on behalf of the heavens. We destroyed the Imperial Regency. Back then, the various forces attacked openly. When did they steal? The Blood Shark cultivator had a mocking expression. "Daoyu, why are you in such a hurry? Did you hit a sore spot?" The Alioth Sword sect cultivator took out his natal magic weapon and scolded, "You've gone too far. Today I will fight you to the death." The Blood Shark cultivator was not to be outdone. If your Alioth Sword sect doesn't play dirty, who can you beat? Rogue cultivators of the same level can beat you up. Saying this, he also took out his magic weapon and prepared to attack. Seeing that things were about to get out of hand, the other Seven Stars Alliance cultivators quickly stopped them. The bulky cultivator stood between the two. Both sides have already agreed to let go of past grudges in the Heavenly Palace. Let's not talk about the past. Let's investigate the disciples of the various forces and clarify this matter. If this stalemate continues when the secret realm closes, there will be no clues. In the future, both sides will blame each other and it might lead to chaos. Hearing this, the Alioth Sword sect and Blood Shark cultivators calmed down. The two sides had fought many times in the past thousands of years. Each time, blood flowed like a river. Now, the demonic cultivators of the myriad demon islands had grown stronger. The cultivators of Mystic Ice Island also wanted to reach out to the Sea of Seven Stars. If this continued, the Seven Stars Alliance and Blood Shark would no longer be in charge of the Sea of Seven Stars. Seeing that his words were effective, the bulky cultivator struck while the iron was hot. Let's find the person first. We'll talk about other things later. No one had any objections. An early nascent soul cultivator stood up and said, Junior has a spirit beast and its innate ability is to detect scents. Since this person appeared here, he must have left some traces of his scent. When I release the spirit beast, he won't be able to hide. Saying this, he summoned a black dog from his spirit beast pouch. This black dog was only 3 feet long and had a cultivation level of low-grade 4th level. It sniffed hard in the spirit field, and a wave of spirit power appeared on its body. After about 10 breaths, the black dog sent a message to its master. The cultivator said, according to the scent, this person first appeared at the Jade Water River. Then he followed the Jade Water River to Xuanwu Lake. He circled around Xuanwu Lake and left a lot of scent in the spirit field. Then he came to the Shenong Pavilion. After leaving this place, he went east. He stopped near the east gate for a while and then restrained his scent, making it difficult to detect him. Moao can't lock onto him unless he's near him. The One Clan cultivator said, according to the results of Moao's little friend's detection, this person hasn't left yet. How about this? Let's gather all the disciples in the heavenly palace and let Moao's little friend check them one by one. No one had any objections. They all sent messages to the cultivators of their respective sections. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.